So on OBS, whenever we speak, the bars should go. Like, or all the bars averaged out, Daniel.
Loka, thank you for teaching me how to run the stream after I've been running the stream
there's
for
so many problems.
forever.
So yes, I do need to teach this.
Most of the time, those problems come not from me, Loco. Jesus Christ. This is how we're starting the goddamn episode. I was going to be like, happy birthday, it's a great party, Loco's a great guy,
That's
all that.
exactly how we're going to start it. What if you're going to fucking argue about this kind of shit?
Go fuck yourself right before we start the goddamn show.
What do you mean go fuck myself? I mean, we've had how many fucking audio.
All right, this is the end of Facecheck. We have the Thorin and Loco blow up here.
What's up, guys?
I'm fine to replace Daniel. Let's do it.
No, fuck you, dude. See how that works.
I will definitely see next week how that works. How about it?
Damn. All right.
Dude, whatever the fuck.
I thought I was the one that just played a fucking 3 games of solo queue.
I played.
I mean, if you think you're replaceable, let's see how irreplaceable it gets.
No, I think that if you want to host a goddamn stream.
Oh, I won't. I'll definitely get someone else to do it.
What's up, everyone? This is what you normally get to see, or you don't get to see before we start every stream. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, week 3 action in the books. We had a lot of great storylines that went through. Are TL as good as evil geniuses? That's one of the big questions. Loco obviously had he had his birthday party. I think that was a really cool thing that brought a lot of people together. He actually got Dom outside the house. Had our great picture of all three.
Hey,
of us
I leave the house. I just don't go to the esports parties because they remind me of high school parties.
Wait, you're always with like BB and them, no?
Yeah.
BB, Lurlo.
Yeah. I just show it with the homies. I'd rather do that. Or if I want to see like a girl, I'll go like chill with them. I'm not like, oh, let's fucking grab all the fucking esports people together because it just feels like high school to me a lot of the time. And I'm just like, I guess I'm just older than the rest of that crowd for the most part. So I do my own thing.
Yeah. There was a tweet out. I think we won't use names, but they said from the people that went out to the party, all the teams won the next day. So all those teams that won. So it was a big extravaganza. A lot of people were there. There were a lot of personalities that were there as well. And I kind of wanted to start on this. Like, do you think that pros shouldn't be going out, even though like almost all of them won? Do you think pros should be going out the night before a game?
100% yes. If your team is struggling, like it's just optics, right? They can go out. It's not a problem. Like if they don't go to a party, they can still go and drink with friends, and it doesn't get uploaded, and people don't know. But it's the optics of the situation. If your team is 0-2 or like you had a 0-1 to a team you shouldn't lose, you should not go out the next.
I think it depends on when you play, because like that was a Sunday night party, which means that the teams that are playing the next day are like Monday night league, so they're playing like 5:30 p.m. So I feel like you can go out to a party, you leave at a reasonable time at like 1. You can recover, and then just, by the time that it's 5-6 p.m. the next day, you're probably fine.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. But I never did it as a player. I rarely went out.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Dom, but I think the Loco's point of like the optics of it are just, it looks too bad, especially because my experience with Loco came from a place of losing a lot. Never really wanted to go out. As much as it might have been good to reset the mental, it just made it look like you weren't trying. And, you tried 6 days a week. Even on that 7th day, a lot of people were grinding solo queue or practicing things. And it just looks like the optics of like, hey, look, they don't care. They're not out here. And I think it would have been interesting if some of those teams have lost and photos of that got leaked. But no photos got leaked.
All I want to say is I went straight up to Keith at that party, and I flamed him, and he left early, and he wasn't even drinking when I saw him. So I went up straight up to him, I flamed him to his face, and I'm like, hey man, I have to flame you. It's my job. And he's like, I know, I deserve to be flamed. And then he just popped off the fucking next day. Shit down Double's throat hard as fuck. So
didn't you say Keith had a fetish for getting flamed by you, like before you guys played LCS?
Well, not actually flamed. I would be like, Keith, you're such a dumbass. Like, what the fuck are you doing on my team? I have to play LCS with Keith McBrief. Like, that's what I would say to him. Like, it was joke flame. Last week's flame was like real flame. Like, no, actually, last week I just think I thought he was a bad support. But I mean, his Thresh looks way better than his Tahm Kench, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it starts to look good. We'll get into that game in just a little bit, but I think, so that was kind of how I wanted to open things. Loco, happy birthday. There was a lot of fun over there. A lot of people were there. Anything you wanted to say about that before we move into our matches of the week?
And big party, like I have the big house, so I have to do something with it. So normally I do my birthdays like extremely small. I think the last 3 birthdays has all been like personal dinners or like a dinner with one person. So this is like the biggest thing I've done for my birthday in like years until like, yeah, when I was younger, I guess like you did big parties as a kid, but this is my first big adult party.
I never did parties like ever when I was a kid. My birthday was in August, and most people would be traveling. So like most people would like vacation or whatever. So like not that many people here. So I never grew up with doing parties, and I just never liked having birthday parties or anyone or like anything. It just made me feel like awkward. So I was always just like a loner in that regard.
Yeah, I had one traumatic birthday party, and then after that, I've been really disliking it. And also, like, adult birthdays are different. Like, kid birthdays, you're looking forward to like all the presents you're getting. Adult birthdays, like, I think after like 25, it's just like, oh my god, I'm getting a year older.
Yeah, man, I'm 30 next year. It's fucking doomed. Like, I'm 30 this year actually. So whatever, dude. Fuck birthdays. Just gonna have to, wrap it up. I think get a fucking retirement home or something. Search for a casket on stream.
Well, I think for a lot of people, birthdays are a time to celebrate because they don't have as much free time or the freedom to just go out and have a good time whenever they want to for any reason. So, but I think because all of us have like more unique schedules and a different type of lifestyle, birthdays are kind of like, it just feels like time's hitting us because you can go out whenever you want and do whatever you want.
Yeah, makes sense.
But either way, a lot of fun. A lot of people were there. It was a good time had by all. Let's hop into the matches this week. I think Saturday's matches were a little bit slower. Sunday's matches were a little bit slower than what we wanted, but there were still a lot of telling things that happened. Let's start with Saturday's match, starting off with 2 teams that we expected to see at the top. Or one team that we expect to be at the top, one team that started slow at the beginning of the season. That's TSM and Dignitas. And that game was, it was close throughout. It was a 3,000 gold lead for TSM after 20 minutes constantly. From there, it kind of like stuck until the very end of the game. A lot of the takeaway from this game was the double AP top lane Kennen, Vel'Koz in the mid lane, and then Elise that Grig had to play. So there was a lot of flame about that. Johnson playing Aphelios had a couple of very big plays that kept Dignitas in it after a couple of doomed team fights, but eventually TSM out macroed him. Grig got caught a couple times right before Dragon. Dragon Soul was coming up on the Soul, and this was like the TSM that we expected to see.
Yeah, I was pretty sad with the Dignitas draft. I feel like they just got mind gamed super hard. Felt like they just assumed the set was top because no one has been flexing set into the jungle, and then when they ended up flexing the set to jungle and picking Aurelia top, it's like, damn. So we picked triple AP topside, and they were probably okay with that, with the mentality of like, hey, we at least, even if we pick triple AP topside, we at least get a counter pick here. So it's not that bad. Like, obviously, it's never good to draft so much of one damage type. But they probably thought it was excusable because their lane matchups would be so good. But then they didn't even get good lane matchups. They actually got losing lane matchups because of the jungle set. And it doesn't feel like Grig was able to do anything to really exploit the set at all. So like the flex even ended up being completely fine for Darduck. At no point did I feel like Darduck was getting out pressured or outpaced by the Elise. He wasn't getting out ganked. So it felt like, for me, they just got completely outdrafted. And then their gameplay was just, whatever you expect from Dignitas. I mean, I don't like Froggen getting the last pick counter pick on Froggen, because he never plays anything to me that really pops off. Like, his best pick into Syndra is Vel'Koz, and he's still like even/losing in lane to Bjergsen. So I just didn't like the draft at all from Dignitas.
So for this one, I definitely agree with you regarding the draft. And another huge thing is 4 range comps are extremely hard to play in LCS. Like, you have to kite so well and you have to account for so many things. And I don't think Dig is at that level. And I'm surprised you don't like the Vel'Koz into Syndra one. Like, what else would you have Froggen play there?
Well, that's my point. It's like, I think that he just doesn't have good counter picks to Syndra. Like, I don't even think that Syndra is counter pickable. But yeah, I mean, the one thing that I would like to see if you're going to draft an AP into Syndra would be Echo. That's like the known counter pick to Syndra, because you go Echo, you take Merc Treads. It's really impossible to be killed. Your stun doesn't last long enough. If Syndra ever ults, you just ult back. But we saw his Echo the week before, and that shit didn't look good. So that's why I don't like him getting counter pick, is because his counter picks aren't good enough to actually win the game. And he doesn't play, like, the only counter picks that I feel like he plays are like long range counter picks, like Vel'Koz, Anivia, Lux, like things like that, like other control mages. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna why don't you just pick Syndra on fourth pick there if you want to play a control mage? Pick Syndra on fourth pick, and then make them reveal where the set is going. And then once you know where the set is, because most likely if they don't pick Kennen right there, TSM is just going to put the set top and pick a standard jungler. Like they're going to be the ones that are like, okay, set top and like Gragas jungle or something like that. So I think you take Syndra, which is like what a lot of teams like in EU do. You take it on like 4, and then you leave your top lane counter pick. And then if they go set top, you counter pick with like Soraka or something potentially.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think 100% that Kennen pick was supposed to be into set, and that was like the counter they're getting, and they're like, oh, we get to counter pick both lanes, because before this, I think set was only flexed to mid lane by perks, and we haven't even seen set jungle, and I didn't even know it was possible. How good is it? You were talking about
I don't think
exploiting it earlier.
Yeah, so I don't think it's that good. Like the thing that I think the problem with Set is that his ganks are like really fucking bad. You pretty much have to like walk up and try to like flash E somebody. It's the only way that you're possibly going to get a kill. It's just like kind of tanky and kind of slow. And NA teams just aren't like fast paced enough. Like the way I feel like you beat Set jungle is you do a lot of like early like dives when he's on the other side of the map. That's like what Elise is really good at, right? Like Elise is the best diving jungler in the entire game. And he just wasn't able to do anything. I feel like Grig is honestly performing like the worst member of this team. He seems like the worst part of Dignitas right now. Yeah. So
did you see Parf defending him? Parf was talking about, oh, anyone that talks about Grip being bad this week is like a monkey. This was right after this game. He's like, they drafted 2 AP solos along with Elise. Like there was no way he could have played one. Like,
yeah, I mean, was like whatever. Me and Part just don't agree about League. He also thought that putting Spica in over Acadian and Grig was a good decision, and they just got like absolutely fucking murdered in playoffs. So I would take whatever Part says with a grain of salt. He really is just super biased towards Grig. That's all it is. Like he just likes Grig as a person. That's why he wanted him on TSM. That's why he wanted Grig to like have a chance to start over Acadian. That's why there was a reason for them both competing. Like he just likes Grig. And I understand that. Like you can be partial towards some players, but my job is to be like realistic about how the situation is. And this motherfucker is literally losing games for his team alone. He's playing Rek'Sai into Lee Sin and dying level 3 to Zoe Bubble trying to clear a ward in the other game. Like he has the worst stats out of any jungler in the fucking league. Like who can you honestly say is playing worse than Grig right now?
Oh my god, I don't want to diverge too much, but when you're saying my job is to be honest about like how good a player is, that's exactly Par's job also.
No.
And yeah, that was a huge problem too.
Why do you think that that's his job?
What, to be honest about like how good a player is and judge them?
Why does it matter if he's being honest about how good other players are on other teams?
Well, he's a general manager. He picks up and lets go of players.
Yeah,
and
but right now, yeah, sure. So, but that doesn't mean he has to be honest about a player's skill level publicly. He can have his own thoughts, and then he can defend.
Maybe not publicly, but that is his job. Like being able to judge players and being able to control the roster and being able to put together something that works.
Sure. But I think in here he has no like really like I don't feel like he has any horse in the race per se. I think he just likes Grig.
Also, anyways, like one thing that TSM has been doing, and I see a lot more NA teams do now, is like just admitting that they can't play non-engaged comps and playing these engaged comps and getting wins on the board. I think start of the season, there's so many teams that try to play 1-3-1 and split push needlessly, and it's so good to see TSM just keeping it simple. Take the Leona, take the Set, take the Syndra, and like pick stuff that works, and also go really comfort with the champions. Like Broken Blade, he's been playing Irelia for he's been really comfortable on that champion, really good on it also. And then same thing for Bjerg with Syndra. It's his probably favorite champion and one of his most played. So yeah, I really like what TSM did. Just let's do what works, because when we were trying to get too smart with ourselves, it never really worked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it was trying to be like too smart before. I think that they're just getting better drafts. Like I know that 1-3-1 is good in a lot of situations, but the champs that they were drafting before, like Rumble with Senna and LeBlanc, like I think that's just a straight up worse team comp. Like everyone that plays 1-3-1 really well, like teams like G2 that play 1-3-1 really well, they normally have some way to fight on their team. Like they'll run things like set mid, or they'll have like Aatrox being able to flank. When they run like the Soraka comps, they play it with some form of engage from support or jungle. Like I think lots of teams will at least have some way to play the fights. Like I don't see that many comps that are like pure 1-3-1. Like CLG fucking did with like Lucian and Kale top, and it's like what the fuck? Like how do you ever fight with this team comp? It's just so hard to play. I feel like most teams, and even I've been watching a little bit of Korea. they'll draft to have some form of engage. They'll draft a Kennen. They'll draft like Bard and shit, so they at least are able to fight at some point.
Yeah, I mean, even with like drafting engage for 131, like the biggest problem is, like you said, like getting that engage. And I feel like NA teams just cannot play comps with very easy and very reliable way to engage. I think that's why J4 is really good in the meta for NA. And I also think that's why Xayah is really good in the meta, because along with Xayah, it's always Recon picked together with it.
Okay, so if engage is the meta, how come we saw 2 losses with better engage comps?
You mean one with like the CLG one, right?
Yeah, the CLG one, and then the TL one was like the TL one was Jarvan Galio, which is like hard fucking engage with Rumble and Kennen. Like I looked at that team comp, like, how can you fucking lose with this?
We'll talk about that game, like, or when we talk about those individual teams. But yeah, that was like a fucking mystery. That's something like I don't even fucking know how it happened. The games were actually so atrocious from both CLG and TL. So yeah, I still stick by the fact that engage is king in NA, especially with lower level.
I think so too. So that's why my my post-draft predictions on both, I was wrong yesterday. I thought that TL would beat TL would win with that draft against Golden Guardians, and then I thought that IMT would just get shit on for having triple AP topside, plus having the enemy team having like the Wombo combo dream fucking comp. I was so surprised.
Anyways, for this game, like to talk more a bit, I think TSM really understood what their comp needed to do. And even with this kind of comp, like flanking is really crucial, right? If the enemy team has 4 range champions and you're not giving them that problem of there's people engaging from multiple angles, it's actually really bad. So TSM constantly finding flanks with Aurelia, finding flanks with Set also. So yeah, doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think that their identity of like playing towards topside is really good right now. They're generally just playing towards BB's lane. They're going like 3-man dives. They're going for like ganks up top. They're making sure that he's always stable, because generally speaking, when I look at that team, Kabi is going to always be stable, like always going to be good at playing weak side. Like teams have played around him, like you have seen Splice play around him, but he's never been the type of player where you leave him alone and he just ints or like dies in lane. Like he's always serviceable no matter what, which I think is his biggest strength. So I feel like the way that the team should function is they should be trying to get like Broken Blade ahead, because he's the one that can really carry a lot of these games. He has the weird fucking champ pool. Not many other people have like such a wide champion pool as he has. I mean, we've seen him play Orin, we've seen him play we saw him, I think, maybe play an Aatrox game. We saw Kiana, we saw Rumble, we've seen Aurelia. Like no one's playing Kiana top or Aurelia like in this meta. So having somebody that actually has a bunch of counter picks and has like a good mind about like a good mindset about how he can exploit certain top laners in certain ways, I feel like that's just such a useful thing. And if you give him a counter pick and then you play around that win condition, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah. What do you think of Dardoch's performance? I really want to hear your take before I give mine. Like individual.
I think individually I think he played pretty well in the set game. His last engage was insane. And then I think that his Gragas game was pretty good as well. I think he really stepped up this week, and he's been performing like one of the better junglers in the league again.
So one thing that's a little bit weird to me was Josh had a really good feel on where everyone was before when I coached him and I watched him before. And he still has his like thick engages. He still has like moments where he's pulling the trigger where I feel like, wow, almost no one else would have pulled the trigger there other than Josh. But he's lost on the map a lot. I see him caught out a lot, and I see him be in like wrong position in terms of like being able to support someone or being where enemy jungle and enemy support or enemy laner can move first.
Does that mean what he's like a more of a mechanical jungler but not really smart jungler?
He had excellent game sense before. Like he would know things about where enemy jungler should be, enemy support should be, where I feel like, how do you know this when I talk to him afterwards? And then nowadays, I feel like that aspect of Dardoch has died down a lot, where his still like engages, his still mechanical outplay is really there.
Well, I think that a lot of it is also TSM's always a team that plays like really like structurally, and they play kind of off like their midline priority a lot just inherently. So a lot of the plays I feel like that he's going for are kind of like more team plays rather than him just like deciding everything that's going on in the game. It's kind of like, I think they have more structure. Like I don't remember a team that he's played on that's had so much structure in terms of like, hey, this is like how we want to do vision. Like we have priority on this wave. We can dive. Like all the mid laners that he's played with before, like Phoenix and Pobelter, I think they're kind of more like go with the flow mid laners where they know what's good for them and they're willing to like listen to you. Where Bjergsen's more of the player like, hey, I have mid pressure on this wave. Can we dive top? Can we do this? And like Broken Blade's the type of player that's like, hey, we can dive on this wave. Like I want you here now. So I feel like he's getting more direction from his laners, which kind of like changes his perception of the game, because when you're doing the whole game by yourself, you can kind of do whatever feels right to you. But then there's some like now he's trying to take in what is like best for my laners or what do my laners want to do. I have to just like execute in different ways, and I think that kind of might like cloud his judgment sometimes when it comes from like when it comes from like just being in the right spot at all times because he's trying to follow like a game plan more than just going off feel.
Isn't that exactly what we talked about regarding like what we don't want to see from Dardoch? Like in terms of like him not being a ward, in terms of him still getting to keep his like essence of what makes Dardoch and like why Dardoch is good for TSM, because he won't just fit in that box. He'll bring his own style. He'll do what's right for himself, right for the jungle, not what's right for the laners and not what's right for
I think he still can bring his own style. Like I think that it's just more in the situations that are like he can have like directed plays and there can be like a game plan going in. I just feel like there's going to be a point where a lot of junglers get to make a decision where it's like, okay, like you can look at this, like this is going to be a 3-man top and then you have to make the decision. Are you going for it or not? Like, I just want to make sure that he's still going for plays. And in all these games, it feels like he is still trying to make plays. Like the Rift Herald play with Broken Blade topside where in this game where Aurelia dove under the turrets and died. That's still a play where he's like making an aggressive play. Like he's trying to fight it as aggressively as possible. He goes for the flash, he hits it. Like that's what I want to see. I don't want to see him just like backing off set plays. I don't really care if he's the one that's calling the play or not. I want his mindset to be like more of the, hey, I want to go for plays instead of just, I don't want to do anything because we're just going to win based off our game plan.
I think I'm pretty done with this game. Do you have any final points?
No, I'm fine with it. I thought that I thought that for me, I thought Johnson still is playing really well.
Yeah.
Like when I'm watching all these games, it seems like his positioning is always good. He's able to really output as much damage as possible. And if you watch like some of these fights, he's getting fucking zoned by people and he's still like playing the edges of the team fights. And if you look at Dignitas, man, this game, the only time that he fucking died, the game was instantly lost. Like he was able to live through so many like random fucking engages and like angles and flanks from fucking Broken Blade. He was able to live through so much and he dies once and they lose the game. So I thought that was, I feel like Johnson is still performing well. And obviously when they're losing, he's not going to be getting as much credit. But for me, I like the way he's playing. And then also, yeah, the whole Frog and Vel'Koz thing, I just don't feel like they got value out of that pick. Like the final counter pick of the draft, it just didn't seem to do anything.
Well, the thing is, like they make so much mistakes. Like Dignitas is actually a team where I feel like they regressed from the first few weeks. Like they started ARMing so much in this game. I have no idea why, but they're always grouping mid for no reason. I know they can't win side lanes, but when you're a team that can get flanked really easily and you're 4 range comps, like you cannot group mid like that and try to just overly push, because when they did that, that's when they started getting flanked. Yeah. They got flanked once, some people died, and they also lost flashes. And then the fight you're talking about where Johnson dies and the game is over, they're putting themselves in a position to get flanked again without flash, and then the flank comes and then they all die.
Well, I mean, I think their win condition is really hard because because like you said, they don't win the split, right? So at that point, when Aurelia's 3 items, when Aurelia's Sterax, Triforce, Wit's End, and you're playing AP Kennen,
you're gonna go cry. You're gonna go cry in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. So he wants a team fight. Like I don't like. Obviously, they can't get flanked, but they want to be grouped up. Like theoretically, that's the only way that they can win a fight is if they're grouped.
I think they have to slowly push out and get control in their jungle again. They just put 4 or 5 people mid, and that's literally just asking to die. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yes, their win condition sucks. Yes, I think we both agree their draft is garbo. But what they're doing is like, hey, TSM, come fuck us. Like, we're just going to walk down mid and let you flank.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that is just like laziness and not like when you go through your jungle, when you lose control of the game, you have to sweep from the beginning of your jungle. And like where they're getting flanked were wards like behind rates. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you have to de-ward your jungle. It's like one of the first things that coaches teach you. They're like, hey, when you're losing, buy pink wards and just pink ward your fucking jungle. So they're just not doing the basics of like, we got to make sure that we at least control whatever side of the map we have. We actually should have pressure on.
So how does this play out if Dignitas quote unquote plays this correctly? Do they just lose probably a turret and an inhib because Broken Blade's going to continually split and no one can really collapse on them to clear out that vision and then try to force the fight?
It's really hard. It's really hard.
It's a game of I think they're there, I think they're not. They slowly check into the jungle. They're able to get wards slowly. But if TSM actually calls them out on their bullshit and they're waiting on a brush where Dignitas didn't expect it, or they got lazy with the check-in, then TSM gets to engage, picks off a person or two, and then they can go to Baron and they can't come in.
Yeah, they just have to make sure that there's no flank wards for the Aurelia to TP to. Clear out your jungle, clear out flank wards, and then try to take a 5v5 with your Kennen flanking.
All right.
It's the only way you can win.
That was this match. I think once we later on, we're going to go into every single team, and I think there's still more to dig into both Dig and TSM. Let's move to our second match that we wanted to highlight, and that was Cloud9 and FlyQuest. So FlyQuest riding high, one of the top teams coming in to week number 2, sitting at 3-1. We asked the question, hot or not, both these teams were in that discussion, and we think that they were slightly overperforming what we thought they could. But before we get into that match, we had the Cloud9 tweet of the week where they're joining FlyQuest, and everyone's joining FlyQuest to do good and push out charitable work. So they're doing Tree Quest against FlyQuest, and unfortunately, the Cloud Drake never came out. But they were able to take the victory, plant some trees, and work in collaboration with FlyQuest. So before we dive into the game, what are your thoughts on all this charitable work that everyone's doing that FlyQuest really pushed out first this split?
I mean, as charitable as it is, it's also branding for FlyQuest, and I think it's really good branding because all of last year, their branding was like, we're kind of annoying and we spam Snickers. Like, that was literally their brand. So having Tree Quest gives them like an identity, like this Go Green thing. As like corny as it sounds, it's so much better to be associated with this. And then now when we think FlyQuest, like we don't think Snickers, like we don't think like middling NA team, like we think Tree Quest, like we think about Ocean Drake. Like anytime there's Ocean Drake, casters are talking about FlyQuest. Anytime like we're talking about trees, like we also talk about FlyQuest and vice versa. So this has been really good branding move on their part.
Yeah, I don't know how I see, like I think it's definitely a good cause. I just think that this type of branding is normally not that effective because League is a bunch of like toxic fucking children that normally support this game. So like people don't really get behind stuff. Like if they were like, for every cloud drake or every infernal drake we get, we flame like a fucking player. We put like out like a fucking flame video on somebody. I bet you that would get more interaction. People would be more behind it. So I think it's like a good cause. I think it's like it's a good way to at least brand yourself, but this type of branding normally in the League community has not been effective. Like the most people, the people that get popular in this community, like who's the most popular person in the entire League of Legends world? Tyler won. The most banned player to ever play the fucking game, who was issued an indefinite ban from solo queue based on his toxicity. Like people fucking love that shit. People don't really like this nice guy plant trees bullshit.
Dom and Monty actually talk about that all the time regarding like personalities, and like if you want to be a big personality, you have to have a voice, and you don't have to necessarily flame, but you have to be willing to critique and you have to be willing to be aggressive. Because a big comparison is like Papa Smithy, who I think is like universally loved, and like people think he's a great caster, but he doesn't have the popularity of like a Doran or a Monty. And like the big defining factor between both is like Doran and Monty are willing to flame someone's face off, where Papa Smithy will always like he'll tiptoe around it. And you won't find like Papa insulting people. You'll find Papa making funny jokes, but he will not cross the line that Monty and Doran are willing to. And that's where like the popularity gap is really there.
So even if it's the environment or it's creating junior geniuses like Evil Genius with their scholarship book quest thing, you don't feel like any of this is really having an impact other than for FlyQuest, because now teams feel like they have to do something when they play FlyQuest.
And FlyQuest has an identity. It's definitely doing an impact for them in terms of branding. Like we're no longer like Snickers fam. We're no longer, what are you guys doing? Like we're, Tree Quest. Ocean Drake. Let's talk about FlyQuest. Like, so for FlyQuest, this is hella good. Like the branding itself is like working for them. But what Dom's saying, like a lot of people not getting behind it and not people being passionate about it, like I do agree. Like League fans, like do they really care that much? Like it feels good to talk about trees and it feels good to talk about, like the Australian wildfire, like we're going to save it. But at the end of the day, I don't think League fans truly care.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good cause, right? Like no one's ever going to be like, holy shit, like what the fuck are these assholes doing? Planting trees? Fuck them. Like no one's gonna have that mentality. Like everyone's gonna say it's a good cause. But do I think it will make them like more popular than any of the teams that were more popular than them before? Maybe not.
Better than last year. Let's just say that. Better
than last year, but last year was just like, hey, we got money from Snickers. Like here it is. Like eat one. It's like okay, I guess, man.
Teams do that, but it's just FlyQuest had no branding outside of that, and they pushed it so aggressively. They did it on almost every single post or every single piece of content that they had, so it became their identity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they have to try different things, right? Like I think it's a good idea to just try different stuff, because For them, they're like one of the least popular teams. If you look on like their Twitter and the interaction they get, the popularity of the team, it's like really, really sad. Like you have streamers that just started streaming this year that end up more popular than FlyQuest as an entire organization. So yeah,
I mean, team branding itself is just one of the hardest things to do right now. It's so what's the word I'm looking for? Not inflated. When there's too many people doing the same thing.
Saturated.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, it is so saturated. Like we talked about it on the show before, but it's not like the content that people were doing was incredibly unique. Like TSM Legends or like Squad, like people just did it first. And like people have seen enough of that. And now teams have to be creative to get fans and creative to make content that people want to engage with and people want to click on. And a lot of the smaller teams are struggling like crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think that, like just none of the teams were able to actually put out anything that made their team unique. And like they weren't able to like tie their branding to like any of like the major players that they got. Like when you see like these teams that picked up top name talent or like exciting talent or people that were really popular. You look at like Golden Guardians, for example, right? And they had High, and High was at some point one of the most popular League of Legends figures in North America. And it didn't even feel like he was part of the team. And even like the way that they treated him, right? Like he was just like part of it. And they're like, all right, everything's on High. He's going to lead these rookies. And then they do poorly in the first split. Then it's like, yeah, we used to have 5 good players. Now we have we had 4 good players and now we have 5 great players or some bullshit like that. And I'm like, wait, so you just said, so the person that anyone who likes your team supports the most, you just shit on, and now you replace them with like a Korean, and now everyone just wants your team to fucking lose because you shit on the fucking hero of like NA.
Well, the thing is, I think 100 Thieves actually did it really correctly in terms of like using influencer branding and like really leaning into the influencers. I think Golden Guardians could have really leaned into High also, and I think a lot of the other teams can also really lean into their players, but they're just so afraid of like doing content when they could be potentially losing, and then the players will say, "Oh, we don't have time for this.
Yeah,
we should be practicing," and then like it's your responsibility as a team to be like, "Dog, I'm paying you like 500. I'm paying you like 600. This is part of the contract. If we were going to play video games in our garage for 100 people, you're not going to be paid 500,000. You're not going to be paid 600,000. You're making this kind of money to do sponsorship obligations, to do content, to leverage your brand into building our team's brand. Like that is part of the deal you're signing up for. I don't think players understand that. And I think teams and coaches and managers cave in too easily whenever players just go with, we should be playing, like we're losing. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, and I think that the other thing is like they don't understand the like shift in popularity from players to streamers as well. Like back when I was a player, for example, players used to be way more, like the top players were way more popular than all the streamers. Like if you were a pro player on a top team, you would guarantee get thousands of viewers like whenever you streamed. That was just the deal, right? Like Santorin was a nobody essentially, joined TSM. It's getting 15K viewers every single stream, like before scrims every single day. I would watch a stream, and like, none of these teams like really leverage the increase in popularity of streamers to help their brand at all. Like you saw 100 Thieves, they picked up Mo, right? Like TL has myself, TF Blade, like they start picking up streamers, but like none of the small teams, like who's a fucking FlyQuest streamer? The only Golden Guardian streamer I know is like Becca.
Becca, types of time, like they are leaning into streamers, but they're not doing it and they're not promoting or working with their streamers very much.
The other thing is like if you're gonna be elite, like Golden Guardians, I don't know if they're like how popular they are in other games. I see them as like pretty much a League of Legends team, right? So if you have a League of Legends team, why are you picking up TFT players to represent your brand?
Because like, they want to be more than a League of Legends team, and that has to be their content plan, right? Sure. Have a voice outside of League of Legends.
Wouldn't you want to start by picking up like if you right now have only a League of Legends team, don't you want to start by picking up League of Legends influencers, and then once you branch into TFT, if TFT gets popular, then you start picking up TFT influencers? Like I feel like that's just the natural progression.
Yeah, and then also there's something called the Twitch esports deal, where if you sign players or if you sign people that play esports, or if you sign a former esport player and they stream, then your esport hour deliverable is met. That's when teams really started going after esport players and after some streamers that play esport games.
Entire contract. Yeah, it's like my entire contract. That's like the reason why I get paid from TL is because they can leverage my numbers.
We sidetracked so much. Daniel, get us back onto what we were doing.
Well, I liked working with High at Golden Guardians, and High was one of the founding members of Cloud9, and so let's talk about Cloud9 and FlyQuest again. I just wanted to talk about the damn trees, and then we went into, I think, a very interesting discussion, but probably not.
I mean, this game was shit. So like, I don't really have anything to say about it. Like, they just got rolled from my perspective. Like, C9 just bent them over.
I think
gave it to them.
We kind of have to talk all C9 games, and I wanted to talk about FlyQuest because they were so hot. Like, FlyQuest and Dignitas were white hot, and I think they're middling out a bit. And like, I want people to see, like, yes, teams that have like their shit figured out in week 1, especially in a situation where almost 8 out of the 10 teams were struggling with visas, and almost every single team had less than a month of practice other than C9. Like, getting shit together early, while it's good, it's not going to determine the rest of your season. And I think that's really showing with FlyQuest. I can't, like, people were talking about FlyQuest like finishing top 3 or like being completely so on board with it. I was shocked.
Well, I think the 4 spot, like the 3 and 4 spot, is still up for grabs for me, because I mean, if you look at the teams, like Immortals is technically tied for 2nd now.
Yeah,
I don't think that team is finishing top 3 at all. Like, I think that team is like the biggest fucking fraud of a top team we've had in the LCS. Like, I think that Immortals is still a bottom 4 team, and if you look at their wins, like they're actually just like a lucky, they've got so many just like not decisive wins is what I would say. So like their win against, I mean, the game they looked good was against 100 Thieves, but if you look at like their win versus CLG, they should never win that game. Like, literally, they just won the game because CLG didn't get mid prio and just let them backdoor and end. If you look at their game versus TSM looked like garbage in the first week. They had no idea how to play mid game, and they win like a 70-minute slugfest. So from my perspective, at least, I just don't have much confidence in this team. Like, they don't look like a clean team. They haven't had decisive victories. So I wouldn't consider them to be better than Dignitas or FlyQuest just because they're ahead of them right now.
Where do you think FlyQuest levels out at then?
I think FlyQuest will probably be like a 5th, 6th team, like sneak into the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah, because all of us in the preseason rankings had CLG up there, and CLG just looks like a dumpster fire. So I think if that's the case, then FlyQuest is one of the teams that bumps up and benefits from it.
I mean, let's just move on to the next game then. It seems like we're not going to talk about this much, and we have other teams.
I mean,
to talk about.
what was there anything interesting that happened in this game besides for C9 just like rolling them?
That's every C9 game, no? C9 just rolling the team. I wanted to kind of talk about like FlyQuest actually like running their engaged comp and like doing like what an NA team should do, but it never really even did get to that point. Like, you're right, C9 just kept making picks after picks after picks. I mean, Blabber looks good on Gragas, Niski looks good on Kiana. Oh, the thing I did want to talk about was the Senna pick. I did get to talk to some coaches and players. So there's this theory that Senna beats teamfight comps the same way like Soraka beats teamfight comps, because when you have Senna on the team, you have a shield, you have the heal, and you can pretty much out teamfight the teamfight comps in terms of cooldowns and them not being able to burst people. And especially with Senna Kench, Senna can't be focused down, but C9 seem to be able to do it anyways. And also the big thing is though, like if you're running Senna, I think innately you have to be a 1-3-1 comp because she can't be in a side lane and she almost exclusively has to be mid, and she has to be using her global along with Kench to make it work. And I think it's a trap that a lot of NA teams are falling into, and I really want them to stop doing it. I think. So
you think Senna is just bad for NA?
I think Senna is bad if you cannot 1-3-1 and NA can't 1-3-1. If you're a uniquely NA team that can 1-3-1 properly, then I think Senna is good for you.
I mean, I don't even think it comes down to 1-3-1 with Senna. I feel like the most important part of Senna, at least from my perspective, is the ability to swing early like 1v1s and 2v2s on the top side of the map. So once you hit 6, pretty much like the way I see it is you shouldn't really be going for many kills in your lane, but you shouldn't ever be dying. You should never be getting hit by a thresh hook from Keith McBrief and dying level 3 for sure. So my perspective is it should make 2v2s and 2v2s top and mid and 1v1s just unfightable. If you have like carry versus carry matchup, you draft like a top side that's going to have a lot of fighting, and then you just automatically win it with just the shield, because the ult damage will probably not hit cross map. Like a lot of times it won't hit, but the shield will definitely fucking hit because it's literally the entire fucking screen. And that should just win you a lot of situations. But a lot of these teams are like a lot of the Senna players in NA are really bad about like judging like damage estimation from top and mid laners. Like they don't know who's going to kill who. So they either use it in a fight that's completely won, or they use it in a fight that's lost no matter what, even with the shield. Like they're not really good at reading cross map how the fights are going to go. themselves. So I feel like our Senna players just need to like have more experience. I feel like one of the reasons why Caps is so good on Senna is because he plays all these fucking champions. So when he sees a 1v1 or 2v2, he sees a fight on the other side of the map, he knows how it's going to go. Like he knows how much damage people are going to do based on what cooldowns are up, how he sees the fight playing out. And it seems like Caps' ults always matter when he plays it. And then you look at NA teams and their ults are just always wasted.
It's kill steal or assist, but not necessarily turning the tide.
I think the ult point like has validity, but I still think it's really the 1-3-1 point and being slow to clear lane. Like Jad talked about it on broadcast where like stuff like Xayah, stuff like Aphelios with Inferno, you just go pew pew and then the entire wave is cleared. Whereas Senna doesn't have that. Like she has her Q, that's AoE, but she's so slow at clearing creeps. And right now, the 7 minutes, 30 seconds Rift Herald swap is extremely important. And also, like teams are just so used to AD carries being in a side lane, being able to clean up farm and then rejoin. But teams are having problem with that when they play Senna, and Senna has to be mid lane. And when the AD carry support is mid lane, if you don't know how to play 1-3-1, you're just going to start slowly losing out. And I think that's a bigger problem than the ultimate thing you mentioned.
Without diving into TL too much, does that mean, is that one of the reasons why you think TL is doing that? Because they're one of the few teams that should know how to 1-3-1?
I want to save everything for TL, for the TL section, because I think this is like a really fucking big one. Like TL went 0-2, right? And they're having huge problems. I really want to hear about the Broxa thing, the Shermfire thing. Let's save all the TL stuff for like the big TL talk.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, FlyQuest got rolled over. Sven, big liar, didn't run into the fountain with another perfect game. But he did eventually die in the Cloud9 Dignitas game. Dignitas coming off that loss, trying to bounce back, but instead they just got also rolled over by the machine that is Cloud9. And wanted to talk about this game. Greg, 0-5 in that one, really didn't have too much to do, just got ran all over the map by Blabber and by everybody.
Yeah,
as Parth likes to say, absolute monkey.
Well, I mean, I think that's
yeah. Excuse me.
It just shows like how that's a game where I really like lost a lot of respect for Greg, because the way that I see it is when you're playing a matchup like that, you get the draft resource, you get the counter pick, right? They early pick Lee Sin, and pretty much when C9 does that, they're like, yeah, we don't give a fuck about your Rek'Sai. We don't give a fuck about your Lee Sin counter pick. We think that Blabber's just so good, he'll play it into anything. And he should be, and at least the Rek'Sai should have pressure early game. And normally it doesn't matter. Like if your team is better, Lee just scales into being a better champion and more useful than Rek'Sai. But you can see Rek'Sai's take over games. I mean, we saw like Smithy take over the game versus 100 Thieves. That was like the best game I saw like Smithy play this entire split, where he just is able to just run the entire game off playing an early game champion. And Grig's first move was to int level 3. His biggest thing was, hey, I'm gonna walk to the fucking Raptor pit. It's like you're versus Zoe. You know that Zoe can bubble you from there. And then even after he got hit by the bubble and he eat away, the Lee Sin broke his the bubble, and he didn't flash the max range Zoe Q that Niski had already flashed for. So it's like 100% a situation where you can just flash and live, but he just chose to take a death. And from there, he was just getting shit on for the rest of the game.
So for the first death that you're talking about, I actually think it happens so often, and it's something that junglers just cannot do. Like, I don't think junglers know how to back up from crab. And then the other one is junglers don't know how to back up from wars that they sweeped out or they used to plant for. Like, I see this death so many times in early game, not just Grig. Like, they commit way too much for these like vision plays. That's not possible when people don't have priority in mid lane. It's like a moth to a fucking
It wasn't even
flame.
a priority thing. That's the thing, is like I didn't even view it as like Zoe had priority. Zoe and I think it was Oriana from
yeah, Zoe versus Ori.
Yeah, so the Oriana was just laning even with him, and he just walked onto like the enemy side of the fucking jungle to clear the ward on ramp, and then he just gets bubbled through the wall. Like, he just has to have like he has to understand, hey, with where the Zoe is positioning in lane, I need to stand, like, if I'm going to clear that ward, I have to stand up from the wall, so he's not able to just extend the range of the bubble all the way through and hit me in one shot. I feel like his mentality is like, oh, I'm stronger. Like, he knows, it's not like these players are stupid. He knows that he's stronger than Lee Sin early, so he's trying to play like a power game. He's trying to like chat it up, go into the jungle, clear vision. Like, he wants to take fights, and then the situation, like, it's like he gets into it. It's like, oh, wait a second, if I get one shot before my mid laner is able to help, like, yeah, then I'm just losing the fucking matchup from here on out.
I agree with everything you said, but I think junglers also make dumb decisions whenever they see that ward and they feel like they have to get it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to say, like, the mindset is part of the reason why. Like, I don't see most junglers do that when they're playing like the losing matchup, right? Like, if you're playing like Gragas into Rek'Sai early, you normally wouldn't be willing to like walk there and clear the ward because you're scared. You're like, hey, they're stronger than me. I know that. I shouldn't take early fights. I'll outscale once I hit 6. And I feel like it normally happens to junglers that are playing the winning side of the matchup where they're like, oh shit, I'm Elise versus Lisa in early game. I'm Elise versus Rek'Sai early game. I'm Rek'Sai versus Lisa in early game. They're like, oh shit, I got to do something right now. I'm like, they just want to do more. They want to feel like they're putting an impact on the map by at least clearing vision, getting crab. They're trying to extend their lead, but they're just not smart about like understanding that there is counterplay from the enemies. And like, just because you're stronger, it doesn't mean that you're able to just win any situation. You have to be like intelligent about the fights you choose to take.
Also, what do you think about the draft? So the first 3 for Dignitas was GP, Senna, Kench. I think them following up with Rek'Sai Ori was one of the trollest things they could have done.
Well, I mean, I think that just limit based on the players that they have. Like, what else? I think Syndra was potentially banned that game.
Syndra was open.
Yeah, Syndra was open.
Okay, so Syndra was open. So they just prioritized Ori like really highly on Dignitas every time.
Ori Victor. Yep.
Yeah. So they just prioritize those types of champions, and then Rek'Sai is supposed to counter Lisa. And so they should theoretically have counter matchups in 2 of the positions, right? Like, it was weird because normally you see the GP picked into the Aatrox. Like, that's known as like as a good matchup. I don't think it's a counter. I think teams think it's a counter because they pick GP into Aatrox frequently, and some GPs are able to win that matchup because apparently it's supposed to be good early, but some days shit on impact with it. And and this game, I've never felt like Licorice was getting pressured by the GP, so I'm not sure if that's like even a good mentality.
So this is one like where people are so vocal about. They're like, oh, GP counters Aatrox. Like if you look at the actual win rate, it's 55 GP, 45 Aatrox. It might have updated after because I checked it 2 days ago. But the thing about the GP Aatrox thing is GP wins early whenever he has corrupting and whenever he has the passive up and he's running and he's doing the range Q with Craft. GP will beat Aatrox early game. Like that's just part of the thing. But the thing is, the really big interaction is whenever GP is popping barrels on you, if Aatrox is able to land the EQ, if he lands the first EQ, he will win rest of the trade because he's able to follow up. And that's like the whole mechanical thing in lane. And GP is very, very unforgiving regarding mistakes. If you, like this game where Blabber was able to come to Huni's lane, chunk him out, burn his flash, deny him multiple waves, and Huni has to TP back, it's so hard for GP because once he doesn't have that early level lead or early game lead, and Aatrox can start waiting in brushes and they can get dope, GP is really shitty when it comes to that. And when Aatrox gets his first item, whenever he gets his 1.5 item, Aatrox can run GP down. GP has to use ult really well. GP can't make mistakes with barrels. GP is the easier one to dive. GP is the harder matchup to play. When things are played perfectly and the GP plays so well, I think the GP can beat Aatrox and it is a counter, but it's not like this like hard counter where you're just beating the champion fundamentally throughout the whole thing. Like I think there's fundamental counters like Tom Kenshin to Alistar. Alistar can never fucking engage and it's a garbage matchup. But like GP Aatrox, I think it's a really like 50-50 matchup. And in North America, it's really, you want to do what's easy. And I think Aatrox is so much easier to do than GP.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, so I was of the perception that GP like hard countered Aatrox, right? So when I was doing this draft prediction on stream, I was like, why the fuck is C9 picking, why are they picking Aatrox into GP? Like you just countered yourself top. But I don't know. I guess Licorice has a different perception of the matchup where he thinks it's just not that bad or he thinks it's just like 50-50. So, I mean, I guess I'm just trusting the players that are playing the matchup that I'm wrong about GP being a counter to Aatrox and that they know better because, I mean, they're like people are just picking and I think people are like blinding GP too. And it never seems like the GP does that well. So I guess my perception of Aatrox countering GP GP countering Aatrox is just wrong.
Do you feel like we're weighing this a little heavy because Blabber just folded Grig in half, and you know that's why?
No, I mean I saw it again. I mean we saw Someday versus Impact, and I would say Impact is a better top laner than Someday.
I mean, we see it in Europe too. The Fnatic G2 matchup. Bwipo.
Yeah.
Bwipo GP,
played. Bwipo played GP into Wonder, and that was a game that I put a lot of thought onto because it is G2, right? Like G2 is theoretically the best team in the West by far. So if they are okay picking Aatrox into GP, like they don't think it's that bad, then maybe it's not that bad.
Right. Some counters are like hard counters, but like the GP Aatrox, even if Aatrox is the better matchup, it's not going to be a hard counter. It's very on the edge. And I feel like once the GP like tips over, once the GP makes a mistake, it's so hard for the GP side. And in North America, people make so much mistakes.
I mean, I think that all the counters into Aatrox are just like, I think Aatrox is just such a good blind champion because none of the counters actually seem to shit on him that hard. Like in the LPL, the first week, I saw some people actually like doing well in the Fiora versus Aatrox matchup. But then I saw a lot of people, like I think the Shy played Aatrox into Fiora and then he was completely fine. So it feels like if the Aatrox plays well enough, you can lane that champion to anything and at least not get shit on.
I mean, they have I think the really big one that I like is Camille with even jungle matchup or stronger jungle matchup. But I think other than that, like I don't like any of the matchups into Aatrox.
I mean, we got to see that. We got to see Viper's Camille into I think Kumo's Aatrox, and I would think that Viper would be way better than Kumo. That didn't even seem well there as well. So I mean, I don't really know. I feel like
Aatrox Camille. I think you have to be also good on Camille, and I think Viper. We don't have to get too much into Viper.
I don't think Viper is that bad on Camille. Personally, I just think that their game plan of like Lee Sin pathing towards him, having their bot get ganked 50 times, it was pretty fucking negative for them.
Mm-hmm. Also, going back into this game and finishing more on the draft, I think Niski's pick of Zoe into what Dignitas has is so good. Like, it's Ori versus Zoe, so the Zoe's never going to get killed. Dignitas doesn't have real catch tools, so Zoe can do whatever she wants. I think overall, like, C9 just smashed them in draft 2.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they smashed him in draft. I think it's really just about the Aatrox pick. Depends on how you view the Aatrox pick, whether they smash him in draft. Because if you consider like Ori versus Zoe to just be a farm lane, and then you have stronger jungler, stronger top lane with GP and Rek'Sai and Lee Sin and Aatrox, then I feel like your draft is fine.
But realistically, you're asking an NA team to play out a 1-3-1 with Senna and
Didn't they have Senna as well?
Yeah, they have Senna Kench in bot side.
So they have Senna. And then they have a winning jungle matchup and a winning top lane matchup. Like, I feel like that's a fine draft. I feel like this didn't come down to drafting. I feel like this is just their players are just worse.
But the execution level on that is so high. Like asking a team to execute the Senna draft, asking a team to execute the GP versus Aatrox. I think that's where, I don't like this comp. Asking a team to make sure the Rek'Sai doesn't fall behind. Because if Rek'Sai doesn't have one-shot potential on carries later on, the only utility he really has is the flash knockup. So I think there's so many things that Dig needs to get right for this draft to be the winning draft for Dignitas.
I mean, I just feel like what's the better look? You give C9 all the counters and then somehow you're gonna win, like because your draft is slightly easier. Like I feel like then you're just gonna lose as well. I don't know.
I think you have to go with the easier draft. If you can't execute, if you're playing a draft that you're not able to execute consistently, then you're already like you're kind of playing against yourself on top of playing versus C9. Mm-hmm. I think they have to go easier with the draft.
So do you? What is the one pick that you would want to see then? Even though it's a counter pick, you know, like Dom's point, you get counter picks all over. It's a little bit harder to execute. Which is the one pick that you wanted to see changed?
I mean, what was the first pick that they had? Couldn't they first pick Aphelios?
They led with Kench.
Yeah. So when you first pick Kench, you normally are just saying you want Kench Senna.
Yeah.
Because Senna normally needs a Kench to be able to survive lane. So I think that what other NA teams do is they just first pick Aphelios, and then you play things like Aphelios plus like Nautilus. And you let the enemy team have Senna Kench. But the thing is, Sven is actually a really good
Senna. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't even know how you get the better draft versus team. Like I think you're just too bad in the situation as Dignitas. You're too bad of a team to ever win.
I generally agree with that. I think drafting versus C9 is a nightmare, and most teams are going to be too bad to draft against C9 and have a favorable draft and also an easy to execute draft. So fair points, but yeah, I hated what Dignitas did.
I was fine with what they did. I just think that it's hard to beat C9. I think C9 is just the best team by such a big margin right now.
Well, C9 is the best team right now, but not the best team that we thought going into the season. That was this team that just got matriculated by what everyone considered the worst team, Golden Guardians. That's TL and Golden Guardians here. The revenge of Golden Glue, the revenge of Keith. A lot of different storylines. Bounce back game for a closer after they did the whole Turkish versus Turkish matchup, a Broken Blade and closer, but TL getting the biggest surprise loss. Not a surprise for us because Golden Guardians during my tenure we played Team Liquid 4 times. We beat them twice. So Golden Guardians beating Team Liquid, not a surprise if you're a Golden Guardians fan, which there weren't really many of us there. So Team Liquid fall into Golden Guardians. And Dom, you can go ahead and lead off with the big thing in the bot lane. What the heck
Okay,
happened?
so I first I just want to ask Loco something about Doublelift.
Mhm.
If you were to rank his performance of the first 3 weeks, where do you have him as an AD carry in NA? If you rate his performance
Johnson.
based on not history, just his performance this split, where do you rate him?
Johnson. Turtle actually not bad. Kabe not bad. 4. Ben Johnson.
I did this on stream.
I'll take Cody. Wow.
I'll take Cody
Sticks A.
7 or 8, right?
I have him at 9.
9?
Yeah.
Who's he better than?
FBI, maybe.
FBI.
just beat him. He might be the worst. He might be the worst performing AD. He might be the worst performing AD. I think Bang's played better than him too. That's the other one for EG.
Bang has played better than him.
So Doublelift has played 4 games of Senna, lost them all, and then the other 2 games he had 1 game on Aphelios where they just smashed FlyQuest, and then the other game was on Xayah where he died twice before level 4 when he knew Elise started topside and he got flashed on by Biofrost Leona.
Oh, is he actually 10? No way he's 10. Okay. Damn, I'm gonna have to give it.
That's the mind fuck. That is the mind fuck. That's why I asked you that question, because when I went through it all, I'm like, shit. I like Doublelift, right? I think he's gonna bounce back. I think he's gonna end up being one of the better.
Doublelift.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be one of the better AD carries. Shut the fuck up. You hate Doublelift. Anyways, I think he's gonna be one of the best AD carries in the league again. But when you only look at his body, if you look at only his body of work, this split, he is probably the worst AD carry in the league right now, which is so inexcusable from a player. And like the one thing that triggered me so hard was the interview at the end of week 2, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to play these doggy ADs because like my team needs me to carry." That is so far from the reality of the situation, because the reality of the situation is that you just fucking suck at Senna. You are terrible at the champion. You don't do anything right. You're bad with it in lane. You play it in lane and you're dying in lane. Your ultimates are garbage. You never use your ult to swing a 2v2 or a 1v1. Every single time you ult, it's to get an assist on a kill that's already 100% guaranteed. So then you're burning a 3-minute cooldown. It's like the equivalent of an AD carry playing top lane Shen, where it's like if you waste the Shen ult, you ult a fight where your team was already going to win anyway, and you have to waste your TP back top. You fuck yourself so hard. It's like such a long ultimate cooldown. You need to be able to do something.
Senna is more, I'm surprised Double is bad at Senna, because Double is really good at Jhin.
At Ashe. And
Ashe is different. Ashe has really good wave clear. Ashe goes W, pew, pew, and she wave clears. Jhin and Senna have the same problem where they have really bad wave clear and they're really high on utility. So if you don't maximize utility, then your champion's garbage. And I think Double's having that problem where he's not maximizing utility, and he has to be more of the number 2 or number 3. And Jensen has to be the number 1. Impact has to be the number 1. But yeah, they're playing like they have Xayah on the team.
No, but the thing is, like, he loses lane so hard with Senna that he has to ult to save himself. He ults to self-shield to not get 1v2'd by the MF. When you draft a comp with Galio and Senna on it, right? You want your ultimates to be the thing that swings the top side of the map. You draft Galio so he can halfway roam up from bot lane. You pink your Tribush. You want him to halfway roam so that when you engage with Rumble, Jarvan mid, you fight a 2v2. Even if the Lee Sin's there to counter it, you Senna ult, give the shield, Galio ult. That fight is fucking won on the top side of the map every single time. But if you lose lane so hard that you have to Senna ult and Galio ult yourself to stay in lane, now you're playing a lane that just doesn't have pressure and doesn't have global threat. So you just have a purely losing bot lane at every stage of the game. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. For me, it's like if you watch G2 versus Fnatic, go watch Caps' Senna and watch how he uses ultimate and how he plays the fucking map with the champion, and then go watch Doublelift Senna. And it looks like they're playing 2 completely fucking different champions.
Ziben's Senna really good too. I think Ziben's the best Senna.
You think he's better than Cap Senna?
Or in NA, because I watch G2 and then I watch some Korean, but I don't watch all of Europe, so hard to say. But for NA, Ziben's the best for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So for the whole Doublelift thing, I think it is a Doublelift problem, but it has been TL's go-to. TL plays towards bot side, and they force you in a situation where you're supposed to answer towards bot side. They have the bigger creep wave, they have the more fed AD carry, and they have the better support player, and they have more vision on you. And all they do is match you with jungle, and then you break. But what happens when the AD carry isn't stronger? What happens when the AD carry can't push as fast? Then you're left in a situation where the AD carry has to move, where the AD carry has to give up CS, where they have to do shift plays. And that is not TL's forte. And TL has been really good at playing their style and really bad at not playing their style.
Yeah.
So whenever they're left in a situation where they have to adapt, right? You get stuff like, we're going to play Anivia Scion at Worlds, and we're just going to permaban Kiana. Like, even this year, like, we're left in a situation, we're going to ban Lucian both sides and just play, just to still do what we're doing. So they're a very rigid team. They're extremely good at what they're good at, but they're really bad at what they're bad at, and they're not willing to improve. Like, they did that 1-1-3-1 comp in NA, and they lost to Dignitas. I wish they did more of that, and I wish they were able to push. Like, I wish they're able to, like, be okay and, like, do that more and not be so rigid about, hey, we're a team fight team, and it doesn't matter what the meta is. We're so good at team fighting. Like, we're going to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that part of the thing that I don't like is it seems like the mindset within the team is that, like, oh, we just can't play topside. And even from Doublelift's interviews, even from the things that he says, it seems like that his belief is because his topside isn't as good. But
you have impact.
Yeah, well, but like he's not.
Where would you rank impact? Where would you rank impact as a carry?
As a carry?
Yeah.
This year?
You're gonna put him on Vladimir. You're gonna put him on Lucian.
I don't think he's that. I don't know. Maybe like 5th or something. Like
Fifth?
maybe 5th.
Say, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
As a carry, like I mean, as a carry, I mean, he lost carry versus carry with counterpick to Someday.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Licorice, Broken Blade, definitely better on carries. Yeah, I'd say Someday is better on carry, so that's already 3.
What's your solution then? If you think impact is 4 or 5, then if your solution, like, we're not going to be the top side team, we can't opt into the Lucian, we can't opt into the 5th pick top lane.
What is your solution?
Yeah.
I mean, their solution to win NA is just go back to, like, you blind pick things that are like
just blind Ornn, blind Set.
Blind Aatrox a lot for impact because he's always going to be okay in that side of the matchup, and you just play like bot lanes, like you play fucking Leona MF and like Jarvan jungle. You do that type of stuff. That's a solution. You draft like good team fighting junglers like Gragas. You draft Gragas, Jarvan, and then you also draft like MF Aphelios. You raise priority on that. Raise priority on Zyricon.
So you want to do Band-Aids.
Well, no. I'm not saying that's like, I'm just saying that's your easiest way to win an A. That's what I think their easiest way to win. I think to improve as a team, you actually have to change your mindset. Your mindset can't be, we can't play topside carries. You actually need to get the reps in. You have to play Senna with carries top, and you have to fucking use your ult for the carries top and make that mistake and get better at that thing, because it's not a problem that's just on the top side not being good enough. It's also on Doublelift not being good at playing weak side. He's really bad at playing weak side. He's always, like, even when he came into the league, he was always the person that was getting caught in side lanes over and over again. And at this point, like, you can tell that he just doesn't have good damage estimation with Senna ult. So individually, he's playing poorly in this type of meta.
You know when you do something because you don't really believe in it, but like you're kind of told to do it as a team, or like
and then you like half-ass it. You half-ass it.
Your girlfriend tells you, and then you half-ass it. I think that's what Doublelift is doing. When Doublelift respected his teammate, and when Doublelift respected his solo lanes to do that, he actually took that role and he did it well. Like, he played Ashe, he played Jhin, he played Varus for TSM.
Well, I think this game is going to turn him. I think he's going to play a lot better. I think this game is going to make him a lot better. I think next week we're not going to see him be the 10th, 9th AD carry in the league for long, right? I think next week he's going to play bad, because the thing that Doublelift is driven by is his ego. He's got one of the biggest egos out of any pro player to ever play the game, right? And the other losses were fine, because even though he was playing Senna and he wasn't playing that well, it wasn't apparent how bad he was. And I think that this type of loss where he just looks like such shit and it's so obvious that he's playing terrible really is going to fucking hurt him, and it's going to drive him to want to improve, to want to play better and prove everyone wrong. Like, now he's got some fire lit under him where it's like, hey, like, I understand the situation. When Doublelift is driven, he is the best AD carry in NA. When he's not driven, he's not. So if you're gonna half-ass it, this is what the result's gonna be. He's gonna take this. He's gonna want to look good. It's okay if his team sucks if he looks good. It's not okay if he looks bad and it looks like he's the reason that the team is losing.
Let's lock it back into this game specifically before we go full in on the Team Liquid, because as much as we should shit on Team Liquid for 2-4 losing to Golden Guardians, it also should be an opportunity to applaud Golden Glue, FBI, Keith, Closer, and Hanser to pull out a win. Yes, it was against Team Liquid, and it's a weaker version of Team Liquid, but no one really gave him a chance in that game.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't win that. And that's the whole point here is like TL looked bad with Schernfire playing well.
Yeah.
When Schernfire is the best. Yeah. You don't think Schernfire, who do you think was the best performing member of TL that game?
Okay, we could say Schernfire is the best performing member, or maybe I would give it to Jensen. I would have to go back and watch like really in detail and think about like who is better. But I think Schernfire isn't like playing well. I think his impact is so bad early. Like Schernfire can't find ganks. There are some times where he's not ganking lanes that should be gankable, but I don't think Schernfire can find good.
He found a gank. He flash EQ'd the Zoe, and then Zoe was 100% dead.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? You hard win that.
They stayed in mid lane and died.
Well, no, they should stay in mid lane there. The problem is that fucking Senna wasted her ult to the MF. The MF is 1v2ing. The MF is 1v2ing, and the Senna waste ult and the Galio waste ult. So instead of that being like a 4v3 play, it's like, okay, we killed the Zoe, and now they're trying to fucking come at us with like the Lee Sin and the fucking Thresh are coming to clean this shit up. That shit's a fucking joke, right? Like that should be like, oh, well, now you just enter the whole game because Galio ult comes in. Jarvan can never die with the Galio ult on top. Senna ult comes in, you just stall out until the Galio's there, and then you just win the fight. Because bot lane's getting fucked so hard, Thresh is actually impacting the mid lane more than the two people that have global fucking ultimates. That's the situation.
All right, so let's actually talk about this, like separating the problems. I think there's so much TL problems. I think there's Doublelift problems. I think there's the playstyle problem with impact, and then there's also the mindset problem. So let's set that to the side. Where do you think Schernfire is? Because I actually think Schernfire is part of the problem. And while he's not, TL would be so much better if they had Broxa. It's not just that. It's Schernfire. It's highlighting the problems that TL has. And TL has been very greedy in draft always. Like they are always like, we're going to just blind impact a lane that's counterable. We're going to give Jensen like a 50-50 matchup. We're going to give bot lane a 50-50 matchup. All our laners are going to do better than the enemy lane. And Xmithy will be right there whenever they're going to gank to make sure we're not letting jungle affect us, and to make sure if we're getting fucked on top side, we're committing so much to bottom that we're getting more out of it. The jungle has to play that role for TL's like playstyle to work, but I don't think Schernfire can do that role where he's filling in the gaps that are required and they're getting blown open because, he's not filling in those gaps and he's not having enough of an effect.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that to me like doesn't really matter that much because like that's what he should be. Like he shouldn't be an Xmithy coming into the league. Like that's something that requires a decent amount of experience, a decent amount of like map overview to be able to do that type of stuff. I feel like for him, like he should just be trying to mechanically play well, find ganks where he can, and he should be led by the team. But it feels like they don't even know what the junglers should be doing in the games. Like it's not like they're able to set him up like, hey, this is not Wardy, you can come from a gank from here. It feels like they just kind of want the jungler to do his own thing. They're just leaving him like out on a fucking like limb to fucking die.
I think TL has like really weak team identity right now. They're not more than the sum of their parts. Like we isolate it and we look at TL, Jensen, either the best or like Jensen's either the best mid laner or at worst, he's behind Niski Bjerg, right? You can't put Jensen at 4. So you look at impact, like overall, behind Licorice, behind Broken Blade, at worst 3, at best 1. Like Doublelift, I mean, we're talking about him as like 9th or 10th right now, but like normally Doublelift number 1, Core JJ is number 1. Like even if Schernfire is the worst jungler in the league, like this team should not be having these kind of problems. So I think the problem is so far, it is beyond, but also they're not like embracing Schernfire. Like they're playing like they still have Xmithy. Like if you have a jungler that's less experienced, like make the job easy for him and like do stuff like that makes it easy for him to actually perform on stage. But I think TL is in a mode where they're like, Schernfire is just like a passover. Like right now, it doesn't count.
I feel like they just don't even care that much. Like they're like, whatever. We don't even have our real team yet. Like they probably thought that they would come out of this week 2-0 anyway because they play 100 Thieves and Golden Guardians. They're like, whatever. We'll win 2 games. We're not super good right now, but when Broxy gets here, we'll be better. And it's like, okay, you can't just take the first 3 weeks of the split off. Like you can't.
And that's literally what they're doing. I
was going to say, well, they can, they could.
Well, if you want to, I mean, the thing is, like, I think that's just such disrespect to the other, like, for at least from Double's perspective, that's a big disrespect to the other 80 carries in the league. Because if you look at what Sven's doing, right? Sven grinded to top 10 in solo queue here. He grinded in Korea with Vulcan. They duoed 150 games in Korea. Both got to top 30 on the ladder playing these types of champions. They're playing fucking Senna. They're playing Tom Kench. They're playing Thresh. They're playing the things that they want to be good at coming into the league. And then when they fucking come here, they're playing more solo queue than Doublelift too. So they're practicing in the offseason. They're practicing now. And they're hungry. They want to fucking win. They want to prove that they can be champions. Yeah, they want to prove that they can be champions. And Doublelift's like, oh yeah, we'll maybe win when Brox gets here. Bro, you played 22 games of Senna so far this year with a 45% win rate in solo queue, and you played 2 games in the last week, and you averaged like KDAs of like 1-5-2 and like 1-4-3. And then it's like, okay, so now we're just bringing that into LCS, and you think you're good enough. Why do you think you're good enough to be playing this champion? Like, what makes you feel confident to bring that level of performance into the LCS stage?
When you won 4 in a row, and when you feel invulnerable, and like you also think really highly of your teammates,
that's the reason.
Like, it's like championship fatigue. Like winning for TL is like mundane. Like when TL won the first one, they were like, fuck, oh my god. They were so like they were crying. Like people were so fucking happy. They're like, oh my god, like TL fourth, like that shit's done. Like Doublelift, that AD, Doublelift got carried by Bjergsen, like that shit's done. Like it meant so much to them. And then the fourth one also meant so much. Like 4 in a row, no one's done it. There's been 3 peats. Like we're breaking a record. And then like right now, like for them to win and for them to put in that work, like they need to find another reason for it. And
yeah, the reason is you want to do well at Worlds, so you try to make the best of the situation.
I don't think they believe that. I don't think they believe they can do well at Worlds. I genuinely believe
then FF. Then just like literally go stream. That's it.
No, I think
what the fuck is the point?
Okay, why do you think TL believes they can do well at Worlds?
Well, I mean, I think that it's because they just got a different jungler. So they got a jungler with a more high mechanical ceiling. Also, Brox is somebody that went to World Finals 2 years ago. Last year, they got out of groups in the group of death with Fnatic, RNG in that group as well. SKT and RNG in that group as well. So they should be motivated. Like, hey, we made an upgrade to our team. Our team was already good. He's going to be like, Brox is going to be the guy that's going to help elevate us to the next level. And now we can get out of groups. Like this guy, like Brox has only got out of groups. The year before that, this is 3 years in a row, Brox got out of groups. And like one of the teams,
they're not showing that in their action. If that's what they're believing, like, hey, with Broxa, we can get out of groups. Like, hey, we don't have Shrimfire right now, but
I think their mentality is like, oh, we don't have Broxa yet, so it doesn't really count. Once we get Broxa, then we're going to progress towards that goal. That's what I think it is.
I think that's what it is subconsciously.
TL can't. If that's your mentality, we need to wait for Broxa to start tryharding. We don't have Broxa right now. This doesn't really count. Like we're on a break. Like this is still like mini vacation. We can turn it on whenever. Like that is not mindset of a team. Like, hey, we're here to win Worlds. Like we're here to do our best. Like look at fucking G2. Like they're fucking grinding their asses off after they made finals. Like they are not the same. Like
because
the amount of work C9 is putting in, the amount of work G2 is putting in, it is not the same with TLs. And I think it's ingenuous to tell teams like, hey, we have goals of making it out of groups at Worlds. Like we want to make NA proud. Like, oh my god, you're making us so fucking proud right now.
Well, yeah, no, I don't think that they're correct, but I definitely think that is like their mindset. Like I don't
action. Yeah, dumb. I can tell you all the time I'm gonna stop smoking, but if I'm like, oh, I'll smoke when I drink. Oh, I'll smoke because I'm really stressed. Like it doesn't matter what.
Then I'm not gonna believe you. So yeah, exactly. I still think that is what their mindset, like what they want their mindset to be, but I just think that they won't accomplish it because of the effort that they're putting in. Like I don't think that they all have the urgency. When I look at Core JJ, I feel like Core JJ actually does have the urgency. I feel like it's certain players that don't. I feel like Impact has been struggling. I feel like Jensen is kind of like go with the flow type player. Like if his team isn't trying, he doesn't really want to try like super hard either. Like I think that's more of his mentality, and I think Impact is playing worse than normal as well. And I think that if everyone can look up to somebody, they should look up to fucking Core JJ, because Core JJ is the most recent world champion you have on that team. You have 2 world champions on your team. The most recent one was Core JJ. He did it recently in the modern era of League of Legends, and he's the guy that's grinding his ass off the most. He's the guy that got rank 1 in solo queue a week ago. He's putting in the fucking games. So look at that guy next to you, Doublelift. Look at that guy, see what he's doing, and mimic his playstyle, because that's what a world champion looks like.
Digon, you had a point. Go for it.
Yeah, I think you guys hit both points where it was like, hey, look, they're kind of sandbagging until Broxa gets here. But also, if you're really a world champion, you really want to get that, you would be working hard right now. And I think that's the case, because that leads us to our tweet of the week coming from Jensen after the loss This is so fucking sad and frustrating. Like,
Oh wow, you
obviously,
just lost. You made that tweet. Like that doesn't change anything.
obviously they feel it. That's my point. They feel the loss, but I don't think that they are relatively putting in the work that needs to be done to win.
You can feeling the loss is completely normal. Like every single time after you lose, like every single time after something bad happens to you, that's when people say they're gonna change. When you actually change, it's like on Monday, on Tuesday, where things are mundane. Like you're not on LCS stage. Like we just finished scrims. Like I want to go for dinner with my friends. Like I should really sit down and play solo queue or look at the scrims or like practice 1v1 with someone. That's where you're supposed to feel it. That's where the difference is made, right? Every single fucking pro player on earth, after they lose, it feels bad. It feels disappointing. You want to make that tweet. That doesn't separate you. What separates you is when you're putting the time in, when it's fucking mundane, when people aren't watching, when you can just get away with kind of being lazy. That's the difference maker. So like saying like, oh, Jensen's making this tweet, like Doublelift saying like the wake up call, like that's just normal. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything positive. That also doesn't mean anything negative.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just feel like it was good the way that TL lost. If they lost the same way they lost 100 Thieves to Golden Guardians, I feel like it wouldn't have changed their mindset. But I feel like the person that is the most prone to like being like a fuckboy in terms of practice or like wanting to go out, I feel like that person is going to be Doublelift, right? Like on that team, do you think that Jensen or Impact or Core JJ is going to be not tryharding? Do you think Schernfire is going to be the new guy? You think that he's going to be the one that's not tryharding? Like the person that is the most decorated LCS player of all time is Doublelift, right? Mm-hmm. So he's going to be the one that is going to be the least driven when it comes to regional league practice or like national whatever, like practice within NA. So the way that, because they lost the game only because of him, I feel like that is going to change him as a player. I think next week he's going to play well.
I mean, someone's asking, how do they know they aren't making the effort? We can watch the games, and then when you have a caliber of team like TL, that's the thing though. Like TL's up here. Like TL has this caliber that they need to maintain, that they need to do better than. When it's not being met, and it's not being met in this kind of way, and like they're not trying things that they should be doing.
I mean, also, it's like I fucking have access to their solo queue accounts. Like, Doublelift doesn't play on a fucking like silver smurf or some shit. He plays on his main account, which is Doublelift, and you can see the games he puts in, and then go look at somebody like Caps' account and look at how many games he's putting in. Look at Jensen's practice compared to Doublelift's practice. Like, he's not playing these games, and when he's playing these champions on his main account, he is not doing well. So, like, the effort, everyone's going to be playing the same amount of scrims, right? So I feel like a lot of the effort has to come into like what you're doing within that scrim and then what your mindset is after. Like, are you tryharding to improve all the time? And if you look at, you compare Sven to Doublelift, he grinds more. And right now he's better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, we can talk a little bit positive about Golden Guardians. Like the way they landed the kill on Doublelift, it was nice. It was pretty basic, but it's Misfortune sees a low HP minion. She loads up, double up, and then she goes for it. And during that animation, Thresh starts to hook. And then if you do it perfectly, the hook goes through the minion right as it dies. The double up bounces, does the extra crit damage, and they were able to kill double that way.
Yeah, and that shows. I mean, when you run into FBI and Keith, they do a Q, right? Like they practice these things themselves. So laning, like there is value that you can get. I know NA solo queue is shit. Everyone always says it, right? Like I say NA solo queue is shit. But if you're a pro player, you just have to fucking play it, and you should play
for
with
everyone.
Support.
It's not shit just for like it's not shit just for Doublelift. It's shit for Keith also, and Keith is putting in the work. Like you just, it's part of being a pro. What can you get out of solo queue? That's part of being a good pro player in NA, and that's why a lot of the Korean players and the Europeans fail when they come to NA. They're like, okay, I'm playing bad. I need to grind out solo queue, and then I'll be good again. Once I'm high up in solo queue, I'll be good. And then they grind solo queue. And then they build bad habits and they're like, what the fuck are my teammates doing? And they get so frustrated because they want to get better. And that's how they know to get better, which is grind solo queue. But in NA, you have to be smarter about it. And you have to be more creative about it.
And you can tell like when somebody's like targeting their practice, like it was obvious to me that Sven wanted to get better at MF. So what did he do? He played 7 games of MF in a row. Out of his last 20, he's played 11 of them on the champion because mainly he was playing Senna Aphelios as well. And then he sees other teams prioritizing MF. He sees LCK not playing Senna at all and playing a fuck ton of MF. He's like, oh, maybe MF is better than I thought. Let me put in 11 fucking games of MF in my last 20 at the top of solo queue and see if I can get better at the champion. You know, like there are things that you can do to just look at yourself.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think my biggest worry for Golden Guardians here is that they just give them time, because there's opportunity to have them grow and make this thing work. But historically, Golden Guardians does not give players time to grow, right? And things to fit and work beyond just a split, especially something like this where it's completely new role swap here for Keith. Familiar position down on the bottom side of the map, but role swap. So it was good for them to finally get a modicum of success, especially against a team like Team Liquid, and lead to conversations like this where we're all like, what's wrong with Team Liquid?
I'm not sure like if my mentality would be to give the ball lane more time if I was on Golden Guardians. I feel like Closer obviously has been doing really well. I think Golden Glue has been relatively stable. I mean, he had a pretty bad game versus TL, and I know his score lines haven't been great, but I think that in the games he's been performing okay. Like not as bad as Crown, for example, not as bad as Ryoma, not as bad as Ica, right? So he's being serviceable as a mid laner. You have a good top laner, a good jungler. I don't know if this like performance for me, I suddenly just think, oh, Keith is actually like, give him more time and he'll suddenly be a really good support. Like to me, I'm still kind of like up in the air with whether I'm not even up in the air. I think that the Keith role swap was just worse than your other options. I've just decided that I think that like it just was a bad move for Golden Guardians. Like I don't think that Keith will be better at support than the support mains that were grinding in Academy.
Yeah.
Like if it was me and you're going to put import bot lane, like get Ole as your import support like you had, and then get a good AD to go with him. I would rather see Ole definitely again than see this bot lane personally.
I think NA mid lane is still a catch-22. The best NA mid lane, when NA mid lane won, it was like Pobelter with Doublelift Prime, Impact Prime, and Xmitty still like Prime. It's just, if you need those kind of players to win with the NA mid, like what's Golden Glue's future? I don't think Golden Glue is going to be top 3. I don't think he'll ever be top 3 in NA. So he can never be on a winning roster. If Golden Glue's goal is to win LCS, then I don't think he can do it as a mid laner, and I don't think Golden Guardians can do it with Golden Glue. So just by having Golden Glue, like they're saying to everyone, hey, we're care about winning
a playoff
LCS.
team at best.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like you kind of have to have more realistic goals if you are Golden Glue, though. Like, if you're Golden Glue, man, like, you should be trying to get a stable job in LCS and, like, make playoffs. And then maybe you can start looking at bigger things after that. But it's like, if you set your eyes, it's like when NA teams are like, we want to win Worlds. It's like, what the fuck? Like, get out of group stage, then we can talk. Like, I don't care about fucking winning Worlds. Like, I don't know.
I mean, we can have all the feel-good talk about Keith, all the feel-good talk about Golden Glue, and Golden Guardians is, for a lot of people, is a team that they want to talk well about because they are taking chances on things and people that normally don't get chances taken on, like Golden Glue and the minor region imports and like players like Keith. But I think realistically, like, yes, it's a feel-good story, but it doesn't really matter.
Is it a feel-good story? I mean, for me, I don't know, man. I feel like people feel like that themselves, but when I look at the team, I mean, this is a team that is 2-4. They're at the bottom of the table. Like, I don't see why you should be like high on this team, or why, like, I think the only like bright light for this team has been closer. Like, I think Hanser we thought was going to be good. He's been playing well. Golden Glue's playing at the level that we thought. Keith and if you take the total split, Keith and FBI are pretty much doing as bad as everyone thought. I just don't see where the hype for this team comes in. Like, I don't expect them to be winning most games. Like, when you lose to Golden Guardians, it's not like, damn, Golden Guardians are really good. The whole story is like,
damn, what's wrong with the other team? Yeah,
it's like, holy shit, TL fucking sucks. They lost to Golden Guardians. What a joke. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're a team that, like you said, Golden Guardians has unlimited money, essentially, Golden State Warriors backing it, this is kind of pathetic what you came up with. And yeah, my perception, maybe I'm just a flamer, but I think they should be flamed for their performance so far overall, even if they do have one good game.
Let's finish up on the TL side. You're in the TL coaching room for some reason, like Dodo and Kane both died, or they died. And then the draft meeting is about Lucian, Top, and Soraka and Senna. What do you say?
Lucian, Top, Soraka, and Senna?
Yeah, these three champions, like, okay, what are we gonna do about it going forward? Are we gonna play these champions?
I'd say Lucian, you try it out, but you're willing to drop that one the most. And I'd say you just have to get better at Senna. And I feel like Soraka would actually work really well for TL and how they want to play, because I feel like Impact's always been good at playing those types of matchups where it's like, oh, I just have to not get shit on. It's so hard to shit on Impact. He's like the hardest fucking person normally to like shit on in the early lane phase. So I would say that you just try to play Soraka. You feel you probably have to keep on playing Senna because this is a champion that doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. And then Lucian, you can use a ban on because other teams do that as well.
I'm worried. I think TL is so rigid. I don't think that's like TL to pick up those champions. I think
you don't think they can play Soraka?
Soraka should be fine. It's like a team fight champion, and it's also play towards bot lane and leave me alone top. So I think
it's Impact's biggest strengths. He knows when to leave the lane and group with the team.
I think it is one of the easiest ones for them to pick up, but TL I've seen for the last few years is we're good at this. We're so good at this that we can make it work regardless of meta.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, Ruin won with Soraka top, and if you give that to Impact, I think that would be fine. We will be moving to 10.3, so that definitely opens up the bans a little bit, so Akali won't be a permaban anymore. Akali's win rate dropped 11% in solo.
Yeah, it's just an overall mindset of we don't need to play everything that's good in the meta. We don't need to play these like number 2, number 3, sometimes even number 1 champions, and we can make it work with what we have. And it's worked for them in NA, and it's also made them very rigid.
Yeah, I mean, you can still win having the mindset. Like, if they just want to drop Senna forever, you can still win with that mindset. It just means that you have to do things that are suboptimal. You have to give over Senna, and you have to play, like, you have to pick MF there.
Yeah.
Because
your
other teams know
Aphelios have to go through the roof.
Well, yeah, but people, like, so what Golden Guardians did is they banned Aphelios and Xayah. So they're like, you can't Xayah Rakan, you can't fucking Aphelios. So what are you going to pick? And I think there for TL, if you're going to play with the mindset that you can't play Senna, you just have to go MF Leona, and you have to make a team comp around that. You first pick the Jarvan, or sorry, you first pick the MF, you pair it with Leona and Nautilus, and then you grab Jarvan, and there's your team comp. There's your Wombo comp.
How good is TL after Broxa? Like, do we think things actually change when Broxa comes in?
I think that they'll become top 3. Yeah, I think they'll be a top 3 team.
I think they do, but I think it's less of Brox's doing. I think it's more of everyone's now like, okay, now this is it. It's time. Our guy's here. We already kind of shit the bed, and the motivation stuff that Dom already talked about, specifically coming from Doublelift because he lost to Keith and has played poorly. I think all of it kind of comes together. And unfortunately, I think that means Schernfire is going to be the scapegoat, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's just a mixture of so many things kind of coming together once.
Yeah, it's not his fault that this team sucks right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that the other team, that the reason why I think that they'll be third, I think they'll still be behind TSM and C9. But the reason why I think that they'll be third is like, who else is fucking good? What other team looks good? Dignitas, FlyQuest, like
C9
Immortals.
C9 number 1 for sure. TSM potential rise. Between Dig and Fly, I'm gonna have to go Dig more than Fly, actually.
Yeah, but they both don't look good. I don't know.
Oh, who would be like? No, I'm never gonna believe it, Kumo.
Yeah, that's why. It's because NA sucks. Like, it's not like top 3 is some like huge thing. It's not like, oh shit, we're the 3rd best team in NA. We're killing it, dude. Immortals has the 3rd best record right now. What the fuck? They suck. You're telling me that with Broxa, those 5 players, Impact, Broxa, Jensen, Core JJ, Doublelift, that lineup's not top 3. It's fucking delusion.
Yeah, so you're right. I think even if they get top 2, it's actually pretty meaningless.
Yep.
They might get top 2 They might get top 2 doing exactly what they've done without improving on their problems.
Yep.
Yeah. So as much as we pooped on them earlier, maybe they just big brained it and said, "Hey, look, yeah, we're 2-4. We expected to go 4-2 or whatever, but now we have our import coming on in, and what did it really give us? It gave us a little bit more ease of mind that we weren't grinding our face off. It's a long year, especially with Worlds in sight, right? This is a team that has Worlds on their mind. Everyone else is trying to catch TL, except maybe Cloud9, who just does Cloud9 things. And
Cloud9's in their own universe. Even if they lose to TL, they do better than TL at Worlds. Like, they live in a separate universe than other NA teams. They practice different. They play different. They pick different. They act different. Like, they're just living in their own world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that maybe this TL team not that they knew what they were doing, but can afford to kind of sandbag it early and then turn it on later on. We've seen this before from TSM from the 6th seed winning the championship way back in 2015. We've seen teams like kind of, not that they were sandbagging, but take it slow and then turn it on late and then be the hot team that goes into the playoffs.
Do you not feel it's a coaching issue? I mean, what's your take, Dom? Let's finish up with.
We actually did TL specifically.
Yeah, I think that's what
we're focusing on TL now. We're going to our team breakdowns.
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's a coaching issue. I think it's mainly just a player issue. Like, I don't think that any coach is going to be able to make players win that don't have the motivation. I feel like this was good for, like, it's exactly what I said at the beginning. Like, I've been shitting on Doublelift this whole time for his performance up to this point, but I still think he's going to turn it around. And I think that they're going to like have a good next week.
All right. With all respect to Kane and Dodo, TL didn't win because of coaches, and they're not losing because of coaches. I think. Go ahead.
The drafts though, like we've talked about the drafts and the champ pools, and like, doesn't that kind of prodding saying, hey, we need to widen this, or hey, we need to pick this?
You've worked for teams before. Like, sometimes you don't pick a champion not because you don't know that's a good champion there, because of the player you have, because of how practice went, because of people refusing to do certain things in practice. Like.
I mean, I don't think that their comps. I don't think that their comps are bad. Like, I think they won the draft versus Golden Guardians. I feel like that is a winnable draft.
That is, they have very comfortable champions too. Yeah. Other than Senna, everything was very comfortable.
Yep. Jarvan, Rumble, Kennen, Galio, Senna. How do you get a better team fight comp? Like, you just lost team fights. I don't know.
All right.
You lost team fights and you lost lanes way too hard.
So we've kind of talked a lot about Team Liquid. So that was like our first team breakdown, including the Golden Guardians match. What's the next team that you wanted to talk about? I kind of wanted to go in like ranking order so that we could kind of bang them out, but we wanted to go through team by team.
Oh, whatever order, just throw it at us and let's go.
All right, let's go with Cloud9. This is like one of the, I think the most dominant performances we've seen from a North American team since when?
Dude, fucking
since Immortals, maybe?
Fucking Fionn compared it to Immortals, but I think it's way different from Immortals. I think the way C9 is winning is so good. I think the way they're drafting is so good. They're playing multi-angular comps. They're taking like thin matchups and actually playing it out properly. Immortals had a very, very set play style. We're going to snowball through Huni and just win through that. I think it's completely different. I don't like the comparison as much. I like the strength comparison. But yeah, I think the C9 is something we haven't seen before in NA.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of them are just really fucking good individually. And that's like the biggest strength is like all the players are working together fine. And I feel like all the players are smart. When you look at like people, like you have a lot of veterans on that team. Like I know Vulcan's only played for 1 year, but Sven's been around since 2015. You know, fucking Niski's been around since about 2016. And then Licorice has played a lot of fucking competitive league, even though he's only been around 2 years. Like he made it to finals or semifinals of Worlds. Like he's done the deep runs, like he's put in the work. So and he played a year of academy before that. So I feel like all the players are smart, and then individually they're just better than their opponents. Like even Blabber said in an interview, they're winning almost 3 lanes every single game. Like no one's ever like when did anyone get solo killed for C9? I don't even remember if anyone's been solo killed in a game yet by them. 6 games in.
They also really trust each other, and they do things like that requires sacrifice. Like in the Dick game, the Zoe versus Ori matchup, that's not a matchup where Ori should be up like 40 CS by 15 minutes. Niski's able to roam every single time because he knows if I give a good lead to my bot lane, if I give a good lead to my top lane, like it is going to work. Like we are going to get something out of it. It does not matter if I'm 40 CS down.
And he knows the Froggen's never going to leave the mid lane anyway. So it's free roams every time.
Yeah. But yeah, like this team trusts each other. They all put in the work. They have a great coach. They have a great culture. Like also the other thing about C9 is they seem to be more and more of a brotherhood team where they enjoy spending time with each other outside of the game. I see C9 players together whenever I see them out socially. It's as a group, or they all are staying inside and like solo queuing or playing board games together. So yeah, I mean, I can only expect better and better things from this C9.
Yeah.
How would you rather see the TL team come together and be, you know, 5-time champion and then be the representative of MSI? Or would you rather have this team be
I think that's
MSI?
That's always been a problem with having Koreans on your team. I feel like when you have like European players, they can just get along in a team environment a lot like easier because I guess like cultural similarities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've never seen a team like that in NA that has Korean players on it. It's always a break off of like the Koreans and then the rest of the team.
Way in Loco.
There's certain cultures. Korean is one of them. I won't speak for other cultures because I don't know it as well, but they like spending time with other Koreans. There's things that only Koreans do, and like it's hard to introduce to.
Koreans like going out drinking soju and doing karaoke
and shit talking NA teammates.
Yeah, and shit talking their NA teammates. And this isn't like, I know people are gonna immediately default to like, oh, that's only because you had Piglet and Phoenix. No, I've literally never seen a team that was super close. Like, what's weird is in Europe they were able to do that with teammates. Like, you saw teams that actually looked like they came together, and were like brothers. You know, like the Huni Reignover Fnatic. They seemed like they had the brotherhood thing going on. When G2 had Trick and Expect, they just seemed closer for some reason. I think there's something about like when you come to NA as a Korean player and NA being such like a low dog shit region in their eyes, it just makes it like, you know, like there's just a disconnect.
And you also feel homesick, and you also aren't used to the culture. Like North American culture is very different from Korean culture, and you want to be comfortable outside of the game. Like you don't want to be in this, like you're always in this consistent state of discomfort by being in North America, and to incorporate yourself into it and like really be part of it and like really be part of the melting pot. Like when you don't speak English, when you've lived your life differently for the first 20 years, it is not easy for Koreans to do that. So
shouldn't it be the same in Europe then for them?
There's a lot more similarities between Europe and NA than Korea and NA.
No, I mean from Korea to Europe.
Korea to Europe compared to Korea to NA. That's
I have no idea how Korean players behave in Europe, so it's hard to say. That's not something I can really speak on.
I like your point, Loco, because I had a chat with Reaper once, and he talked about his experience when he went to China first, and he was like, I don't like this culture. I want to try something new. And then he came to America, and although there are no Korean imports over for Cloud9, I think it's
Cloud9 has Rapid Star right over. He has all his old friends on that team.
It's those that are able to adjust the best that are the ones that find success.
And even the ones that adjust, like Lustboy adjusted really well, like Huni, Reignover, Reaper all adjusted pretty well. Kane adjusted pretty well. Like their still go-to group is Koreans.
Yep. The Koreans go out with other Koreans normally, from my experience.
I think like the only exceptions would be like Ole, I want to say. Ole actually hung out with like non-Koreans more than he hung out with Koreans. Mm-hmm. I think but that is like just very rare. And he's like always been a giga sociable person when he was in Brazil, when he was in Taiwan. Like that's always been Ole. And like, so Ole's one out of like 50 Korean imports we've had. So yeah, it's just not the norm.
Yeah, interesting look at the culture and the shift behind a lot of the import life and how that manifests outside of Cloud9 and inside Cloud9, as you said, still has a lot of Korean influence, but on the management side, not necessarily in the coaching side, not necessarily on the player side. So Cloud9 still trying to figure out its success. We'll see how large that they get and how much they grow. Let's move to our second placers. Start with TSM. We've kind of outlined it a little bit. We talked about Par stepping on in and calling people absolute donkeys when they're, talking about the other team. How do you feel about this team now finally hitting all cylinders? The second longest win streak in the LCS right now at 4 wins in a row.
I think TSM knows exactly what team they have. And kha'zix was kind of like, yo, give me the ball. Like, give me fucking Xayah. Let me play fucking Xayah Rakan, because whatever this shit we're doing is not working. Like, give me Xayah Rakan. Like, I'm going to fucking score. And, I mean, they won every single game he played Xayah, and they're winning games where they're picking easy-to-execute comps. Teamfight comps that scale well, that have very clear engages. Like, these are the best North American comps, and TSM's fully embracing that. Does this mean they're going to be able to beat C9? No, because they actually play this comp all the time, and this has been the history of TSM. Get really, really good at teamfight comps and fail in everything else. And then when people figure you out in draft, like, have problems. So they're on the track of what TSM has been in 2019, 2018, and 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that in general for them, they seem like the team that's actually like improving week to week. Like even if they are playing more comfortable comps, they're also just playing mid game a lot better. Like it feels like they actually understand win conditions. When they played the Ornn mid game, they're grouping up, they're fighting off the Ornn, they're diving top with the Kiana. Like they're making plays that are coordinated, and I don't see that out of any other team besides for C9, where they have like game plans, they make coordinated plays in advance, they set up for them and execute. So that's why I feel like even if Immortals is 4-2 and they're 4-2, I feel like TSM is clearly the second best team in the league right now. And I like seeing a team go week to week and actually have have things that they were bad at be legitimately improved on. So it's like, oh, we sucked at mid game. Now their mid game looks better. Like they have an idea of what to do in mid game. When they're playing against the Dignitas team comp, they understood how to TP flank, like which fights to take, how to play around the Syndra. Like they're just being smarter about the game in general. So I'm pretty happy with this team so far, and I think that they'll do pretty well going forward. I don't see them finishing any lower than third.
My thing is they're back on track of what we expect TSM to be, but are they gonna get better at the split push thing? Are they gonna get better at jungler having more of a voice? Like it just feels like we're getting a rerun of what we've seen of TSM in the past. So it is better than what we've seen, because what we initially thought was like absolute dog shit comps that didn't make sense. Bjergsen was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Bot top also having their own problems. Like there was a lot of like problems, and I feel like those problems got fixed really quickly, and we're right back where we should be. But I'm not sure like what the end game of that looks like. Do they actually fix the core problems that's been on TSM forever? Because that was the whole thing with Stardock, right? We're gonna fix the core problems with TSM, and that's my big question towards them.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's what we said last week, where there's building blocks to becoming a great team, and they're doing the correct first step. Like if you're not able to instantly execute 1-3-1, then you shouldn't be drafting just 1-3-1 and doing it until you're good. That's not going to suddenly make you a better team. It's like you improve your coordination with things that are easier to execute, and you build your levels of execution. It's like, okay, we understand a 4-1 comp with TP flanks. Great. We understand ball comps. Great. Now we get to see if they can advance past this to go to 1-3-1. I don't think just because they haven't done it to this stage, I don't think that means that like, oh shit, they're just going to be doomed forever. They'll never get there. I think that they're progressing towards it the right way. So in the coming weeks, I want to see them play a 1-3-1 comp and see how it looks when they actually have more coordination and where they've solidified some of their like mid games, because their early game has always been fine, right? Like even in their 2 losses, their early game is good. They have good early game plans. They don't get behind there, and mid game is easier to play than early game when you have a fucking lead. So they have the right strength to start. So I just want to see them keep on building upon it. I don't see any reason why I would think that they're not, just because they haven't done it so far. I don't think that means that they can never do it. And I don't expect them to instantly know how to do a 1-3-1 comp with a relatively new team without actually trying it. Like, I don't know if the same problems will always exist. Somebody like Kabi, he's played in EU, right? He played a lot of 1-3-1 with Splice, and like he was dominant in those types of teams. Splice was a team that always was better mid and late game than they were early game. So maybe the change of players puts them in a better position to be able to execute.
Oh, fair points.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't know. Like, history is not on TSM's side, but the Kabi thing is fair. Maybe
I just
like
feel
all
like
the
history
losses-
doesn't matter. Like here, it's just such a different team. Like they have 2 players returning out of 5. Why does the history matter? They have a new coach.
because they've always had this problem, regardless of like player change, with Bjerg being a constant.
I just don't buy the whole like Bjergsen being like the problem with TSM narrative that people have like said forever. That I feel like that's been such like a cop out. Like when you look at all of his other teams, it always felt like he was the best part of those teams, and people just like to shit on him because he was the only person that was there. I don't care, dude. Like you can be the only person that was there and have your team fail. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily the problem. Like you can just get unlucky and could keep on getting players that are fundamentally bad.
Mhm.
Like if you look at every player that they've had on their team, like their worst stints, like they were playing individually poorly on TSM, and I don't think that necessarily has to be Bjergsen. That could just be the pressure that's associated with it. And if these players are able to handle the pressure better, I think that they can be fine. I feel like Broken Blade's also the type of person where that doesn't like get to him. Like when he joined TSM, it felt like hey, he's okay with the pressure and everything. He just wants to be as good as possible. He doesn't give a fuck about the narratives. And I feel like Josh really wants to fucking improve. He really wants to win a split, show that he can do it. This is the team that he can do it on. Kabi wants to be a champion. He wants to like start winning. Like he's always been a player that's decent. He's always been in the conversation like, oh, he's okay. You know, he's one of the better players in EU. He's one of the better AD carries. He's like a serviceable player that goes to Worlds every now and then, but he's never been the fucking star. Like I feel like these players are hungry. I don't know. I believe in this team.
Yeah. How much do you believe in them? Do you have them over C9 at the end?
No, I don't have them over C9 at the end, but I think that C9 is good, and I don't think that necessarily that means that we couldn't potentially have two good teams going into Worlds this year. Like I think that C9 and TSM could improve to the point where C9 is, and this is just for spring that I'm talking about for like the end, because I feel like summer is so far down the road
so
that
much
it's like
can happen.
Yeah, so much can happen. I mean, we're talking about. We've seen 3 weeks of play. We're going to see 20 before we go into, and then 20 plus playoffs until we go into finals. So I think that there's a world where TSM and C9 both become good teams. Then we actually have two teams that can get out of groups at Worlds.
Yeah, I think that's actually the measuring stick that this TSM team is going to be judged on. I agree with you. I don't think they'll beat C9. And even then, I also think the end game of TL will look better than this TSM. Like the really big measuring stick at the very end of the year is this a team that's going to be good enough to get out of groups for NA?
Yeah, and I don't see a reason to say that they can't right now just because of narratives before.
Right. I think there's 3 teams that have that goal. It's TSM, Cloud9, and Team Liquid. So the other little tidbit for TSM, and we're going to find out about them, is that I think they have the toughest strength of schedule left for the first half. So we have 3 games left for the first half of the split, and their games are against 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and FlyQuest. So you have like this, hey, look, you're either better than the middle of the pack or you're not, and you get to play Cloud9. TSM also lost to TL, which is, I think, going to be interesting going into tiebreakers now that TL has picked up Broxa. So when TSM plays against TL, they're going to need that win for another tiebreaker. So 4-2 TSM sitting at second place. Our other second place team was who we had to be the second to last worst team here in Immortals. So Immortals currently sitting at 4-2. When you look at their strength of schedule, they've beaten 100 Thieves, CLG, Golden Guardians, and TSM. They still have to play TL, Evil Geniuses, and Dig. So again, another one of those like, hey, where are you at? And they get to play the souped up version of Team Liquid. But they found wins where we expected losses.
It's
Dom,
fake.
You touched on it. These are like
fake.
wins they've like slid into.
It's bullshit. Don't believe this.
So they're 3-2, right? Let's look at their wins.
They're 4-2.
4-2.
Oh, okay. So the last game didn't update here. So the first win versus TSM, they won where TSM was playing the
70-minute game.
Rumble top, LeBlanc mid, and they gave up the free Baron. So yes, you did beat TSM, but this was like a dog shit version of TSM.
Yeah, and then they beat shit teams besides for that. The only game they've looked good in from my perspective, the only game they've actually looked good in was like the 100 Thieves game, where Smithy actually was able to snowball the early game. But this game versus CLG that they won, like, you should never win that game ever.
Oh my god.
That's the most cancer fucking play I've ever seen, where you just don't push mid, you just open mid. They open mid in an LCS game and let the enemy team win. When you have Ocean Drag, you can push lane all the way. Like, the status of that game when they won was that they could never fight the enemy team regardless. The enemy team has an Ocean Soul. You can never win a fight, but you have to fight because you can't split. You actually don't have a win condition at that point. There's no way they can win outside of like a Miracle Baron steal or some base race bullshit. And they got the base race bullshit. Congratulations, you get that win. This team should be 3-3 right now. Like that is like such a, even for CLG, I know CLG is bad. I don't even think that they would make that mistake again. I feel like that is such a like low percentage, like atrociously lucky play to have win you a game that I just put no value on it. Like, I don't think that this team is fundamentally good. Also, Ica is dog shit. He should have got solo killed by Crown. Crown just simply like was merciful. I think that Ica was probably like waving the white flag. He was like, "I surrender. I'm sorry. I'll give you the lane. Like it's okay, dude. You're better than me. Whatever." And then Crown just felt bad for him. He's like, fuck it. I'm getting paid either way." And he just let him fucking live level 5. Like, that's a fucking kill 100%. This motherfucker is so bad in every single lane phase. I really think that this team is still awful. I think they'll be bottom 4 at the end of the split. I don't give a fuck about their 4 and 2.
Dude, I think a lot of their wins are really fucking questionable too. But the one versus CLG, like where CLG gets Dragon Soul, and they also have Baron, and Ruin's like split pushing bot side, and they're like, Ruin, like back up. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you realize you have Baron, you realize you have Rumble. What happens if Rumble backs with Baron with the empowered recall, and he goes mid lane and clears the wave, and he sits there. He sits there with his Q, and he clears the wave, and Ruin is just split pushing all the way. Like, the decision making on CLG is such a big problem. Like, yeah, I don't have that much comments on Immortals. I think Soaz is actually better than I gave him credit for. I think it is very true that he was on a really dogshit team last year, and he's not the best carry player. But him on these like tanks like Orin, like Cho'Gath, like he rotates and he knows how to cover for his team, and he knows how to make it set up and make it easy for other people. So he looked great when he was on Fnatic. He's playing with players like Caps. He's playing with players like Reckless. You can pass the ball like so goddamn well, but if all your receivers can't land anything, if they can't fucking catch the ball, then you're going to look like a dog shit quarterback. Your percentage is going to be shit. I think that's the problem Soaz had on Misfits. Like, there was no one else that he could play with, where on Immortals,
what? Yeah, so, okay, where are we going? Where are we going
I'll
here?
take it's like a little bit better.
Okay.
And relative to the
I think
field,
Altek's a little bit better than Han Sama.
relative to the field, I think Ica and Altec are better than the Misfit players.
Nah,
Word
I'm not
to
giving
their
them
field.
any hype for
Wait,
this. I don't give a
relative to the
fuck.
field, like Ica and Altec in NA are better than Hansama and that version of Febin come in Europe.
Yeah, I don't even agree with that. I think Febivin and Han Sama are. Yeah, I think Han Sama and Febivin are like both service. Like I think they're both serviceable. Like 4 or 5 mid and ADs in Europe, and I think that
That year on Misfits, they were 4 and 5.
I don't think Fabi was. I think Hansama.
I mean, Febi's probably not 4 and 5 that year, but I think Hansama and Febi were probably like their junglers sucked and Gorilla was running it down. Like, I don't know. I think it's really hard to judge them off of that split. Like, historically, I think that Febi and Hansama have always been like middle to like 3rd, 4th place laners in that league, and I think Ica is actually like the worst mid laner in LCS right now. I think he's really, really terrible. Like, you pick Azir
Ica or Ryoma. I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, those are the worst 2 for sure, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'd say Crown is the 3rd worst mid laner in NA. So, yeah, I mean, so when he's playing against the Crown that just got dumpstered by Jizuke, he's getting shit on in lane super hard. Like, who is Ica better than?
Roma is like the only one you can really put up there.
Yeah, like that's
Golden
why.
Glue.
Yeah, no, I think Golden Glue has been playing better than all 3 of those players so far this split. I don't know. Ica is just really, really terrible, man. Like, the way he plays lane, it's so scary. It's just like you feel panicked watching him play. You're like, oh shit, he's gonna fucking int it. Oh my god, he should die. Oh, I guess he somehow lived. And then somehow they pull out miracle victories. But it's never like he's carrying the game. It's not like, oh shit, the Azir got his items. He's 1v5 now. No, he's literally just a liability the entire time. And when your mid laner is one of the worst players on your team will never be good in LCS.
I know.
Actually, going on to the thoughts point, I actually agree with you now. I don't think Altic and Ica are more better than the Hansama and Febi relative to the field. But it seems like Soaz has more space to do the things that he normally likes doing, like covering, like using TP, setting up for other people. And I'm just seeing it a lot more this year on Immortals than I did see it on Misfits.
Sure, but then the other problem is, like, he still kind of looks like a tank-only player to me. Like, his Aatrox didn't look good to me. His Karma top didn't look good to me. He's yet to impress me on anything other than Cho'Gath, and like his Ornn looked whatever. I feel like a lot of teams are just kind of just view this as like, hey, we just don't draft GP. We don't let him play his Cho'Gath into GP counter that he really likes. We let him play Ornn, and then we just pick Aatrox into it, and then we just don't even have to worry about top. And then when teams understand they don't have to consider top, they just let their top laner do whatever into him. You just focus the mid lane, and that's going to blow the whole game open for some Immortals. Like, if you focus the mid lane, you give your mid lane a good counter pick on Ica, and you just put pressure towards his lane, 3-man roams with the support roaming, the jungle ganks, etc. This dude is going to lose you the game, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just looking up some interesting stats on Ica. He's in the top He's the second most CS difference at 15. So
that doesn't mean shit because like even in this game, like it's different because if you look at how they allocate farm, when Soaz is playing these tanks, they're sending Soaz to group with the team and he's catching the waves.
Wait,
so it's
you
like a
mean-
fake stat. It's a fake
You're
stat.
saying, are you saying difference at 15 or CS overall, Daniel?
difference at 15.
CS at 15, but he's taking waves in the early game. Like he's not
taking
developing
waves that aren't his.
Yeah,
in
he's
his
not.
lane.
He's not developing a 15 CS lead on his opponents. He's not dominating lane and like pushing them under turret and gaining CS like that. If his laners are losing CS, it's because the Rumble is roaming. It's because he's picking up free waves. It's not actually a stat. Like that's why I don't like looking at stats like that a lot of the time because if you watch the games, they could indicate something completely different than what the stat tells you. The stat would tell you that he's lane dominant from that, and if you watch the games, he is the worst fucking laner in the league. So I just don't buy it.
I was going to say, though, to compare, he does have the least amount of damage total of his team. His damage percentage is 22. It's 10th of mid laners. So Ika's there doing a job, catching waves, and Immortals is there
Cashing
at 4 and
checks.
2. Cashing checks as well. Probably on the cheaper end, though, right? He got the opportunity to
still
come straight
cashing
from the
them.
French league. With that schedule that we outlined earlier with their 3 games into the halfway point, they still have Dignitas, Evil Geniuses, and Team Liquid. Do you think this team now 4 and 5? How many do you think they get out of these last 3 games?
They're worse than Dig, but Dig kind of trolls Jazz sometimes, so
Yeah.
they could lose to Dig.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, they can win all these games because NA is just so bad right now. So I don't know. I mean, even if they end up winning games, I'm still not sold. Like, I don't think that they're ever going to be a good team, an actual good team. I don't think that they're ever going to have a chance. Like, even if they somehow sneak into like a playoff spot, they're just going to get like 3-0'd in the first round and sent packing. So, I mean, I expect TL. So even though TL is 2 and 4 and looks horrible coming into this, and they're going to be playing with Broxah, I still think TL should be the favorites versus Immortals next week. Like, I would pick them right now if I had to predict who's going to win that match, TL or Immortals. I just don't have confidence in like the way that this team plays, especially because I think that they don't like the way the teams beat TL is they randomly like shit on TL early game a lot of the time. Like Sure and Fire just ints in the game for 100 Thieves or their ballin just pops off. Like the way Immortals wins games is by like losing,
Letting
and
the
then
other
making,
team lose.
Yeah,
Letting the other team lose.
they're like losing throughout most of the game, and they make like a couple better decisions than a really bad team super fucking late game, which that is not like a good win condition versus TL.
All right. Well, 4 and 2 Immortals. Any final thoughts, Loco?
I generally agree with what's said regarding Immortals. I think a lot of their wins are the enemy team playing
It's a
really
fucking
god awful.
scam.
And
It's a scam.
oh, I actually wanted to ask Dom. You know how you said Xmithy would fall off and he would be a top tier jungler?
Mhm.
How much do you think has that
Happened yet?
I think the only game that he's looked really good was the Rek'Sai game. Like
100
the
Thieves
game
game.
that he played yesterday with Elise versus Wiggly. I mean, Wiggly was running it down. He still wasn't able to do anything. You play Elise and then you don't do anything the whole game. People are like, oh, he hit a cocoon to stop a TP after the enemy team made a horrible decision late game. Fuck that cocoon. I don't care about that cocoon. That doesn't mean you're a good jungler. That's a troll ass. Like that, the other team trolled and you ended up like capitalizing on the other team trolling. Like he's not dominating games. He's not taking over games in any way. Like he had one game that looked good. I still would say that there's plenty of junglers that look like, for example, I'd say Closer looks way better than him. I'd say Jardock looks better than him. I'd say Blabber looks better than him. Like, that's already 3 right there. If you go through the rest of the list, I'd say Santorin has looked better than him overall in all the games that we've seen. I just don't see a reason to say that he's like a top tier jungler right now, just because of their wins currently. Both of the Elise games looked bad, and 2 of the Elise games he's picked up victories on, right?
Mhm.
The Immortals versus TSM game, he played Elise and he didn't do anything. Jardock outplayed him throughout the entire game and they just won super late. And in this last game, I don't think he developed any advantage on Wiggly throughout the game with Elise versus Lee Sin, which early game you should have pressure and you should be able to gank. Like, it just doesn't seem like he is like putting his stamp on the games. I feel like he's smart about the game. He's serviceable. I don't think he is a top jungler in the league.
I think all the positions they're picking Elise in is pretty weird. You're picking Elise for like Ornn, Azir. You're picking Elise for Zoe. Like we talked about how Elise wants to be able to gank for the person. You don't really gank for the Ornn. You don't really gank for the Azir. And you also want to be diving. And like you're blind picking Ornn and the enemy team has Aatrox. Like, yes, I don't think his Elise games look that great. And I also do think he's middling. But I also think Immortals has this like innate draft problems that makes a lot of their players look pretty bad.
Well, I mean, Sure. Yeah, they do have horrible drafts for the most part. Like I think they lost the draft yesterday. The draft for C9 was horrible where they blind picked Yasuo and just got countered by the Pantheon. They definitely have like really bad drafts from time to time. But the whole thing about Elise is like you shouldn't be. I don't really think it really matters about the mid lane. Like most of the times you draft Elise, it's not really to like pressure mid, it's to pressure the side lane dives. And the first game that they played against TSM, it was a Rumble top, and they had Aatrox, so you can Aatrox Elise dive the Rumble. They never went for the play one time throughout the entire game. They're not really diving bot in the last game as well, where I think you have, was it Nautilus that was played? I think it was Nautilus
Zaya.
Nautilus Zaya. So that's a diveable lane as well. Like if you get an advantage, you can dive potentially there as well.
We talked about like SOAS and the rest of the team not being that great. Like to dive, you need to have priority. You need to have priority mid lane. Like you need to, like your mid lane has to be able to move with you to do these dive plays that we're talking about. Your bot lane and top lane needs to have priority. Like Rumble's almost solo killing my Azir at level 3. Like my bot lane's getting pushed in. Like my top lane isn't really a very proactive or like a lane dominant player.
Yeah, so
he's
that's
not in position.
I mean, you don't have to dive. Like, if that ends up being the case, then the better option is just to gank because people are going to be overextended trying to kill your laners. But he's still not finding opportunities, is my point.
Oh, I don't think he's as dog shit as like. Did you call him? You said he would fall off completely, right?
No, I just think he's not going to be a top jungler in the league. Like, I think that like. Yeah, I thought he would be like bottom 4 junglers in the league. That's how I had him.
I see the decline, but I also see his team being much worse than what TL was.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, he's always, he's the glue guy, and I think he's holding these guys together. And as you guys said, maybe they don't get better, and we'll find out here in the next 3 games once we hit the halfway point.
They're holding together TL. And then
so like, I'm trying to think about like how I viewed him before. I think that a lot of it, like, I don't think he's playing worse than I thought he'd be playing. I think he's playing like I thought he'd be playing. I think the other junglers that you'd argue are worse than him are playing worse than I expected. And that's why I would potentially have him as like 6th or 5th, is because players like Meteos, I think has looked pretty bad so far this split. Grig has looked awful this split. Wiggly has looked really bad this split. So even if you put him over those players, it's like, I think it's just more. Too. Yeah, Sven Skaren has looked pretty bad this play. I thought Sven would do worse. I thought the best 2 junglers in the league would be Blabber and Dardoch coming in. That was like my hot take or whatever.
It's Blabber closer now, right?
Yeah, I think it's Blabber and closer. But I thought that a lot of like the young mechanical junglers would just be better in this meta. I thought that like Wiggly would do better in this type of meta. I thought that Sven Skaren, who was really good at these types of champions before, like he's always been the Lee Sin guy, right? Like his Lee Sin has always been clean. He was an insane Gragas last year on C9. He was always good at Rek'Sai. I thought that he would be playing better as well. So even if you rank Xmithy over those players, like I just don't think he's playing like super well. I don't think he can like carry the team.
Let's go to next team.
So that covers our top 3 right now. Now we've got the next 3 teams that are all tied at 3-3 in the middle of the pack as we hit the 3rd way point. So let's start with FlyQuest. So FlyQuest, hot start, 3-1 along with Dignitas. Then starting to fall off here. Lost both games last week. Where do we rank this, charitable branded squad right now?
You played Victor, you played Ori, your support likes Blitz and Leona. You played Blitz and Leona. You picked up a few wins. You looked really good. Other teams slowly starting to get their shit together. Other teams realizing how you play. And I think FlyQuest is cooling down a lot.
Yeah, I still have them as like a 5th, 6th team. Like I think they'll probably squeak into playoffs, the bottom tier, unless like EG improves a lot, and then maybe EG will take their spot. Yeah, I think that they're so like even though they're 3-3, I'd still say that they're probably better than Immortals in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're 3-3, and you touched on a point I wanted to just at least highlight. They lost to EG this week, so that's going to be one of those tiebreaker teams that they're gonna have to at least win on the back half.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they should be an okay team. Like, I don't think that they're going to be a top tier team. Some people were saying like, oh, they're top 4. I don't think that they'll be top 4. I would definitely think that a team like, I mean, I guess the 4th seed is going to be, if it's going to be TSM, C9, like a C9 at the top, then TSM, and then most likely TL, we're going to give them credit, gets their shit together, ends up like being better than the rest of the teams. if they're like third, like the fourth is going to be somebody who's like, there's going to be a big divide, I think, between what the fourth place team is. It's going to be either like an EG, a Dignitas, a FlyQuest.
EG, Dig,
like
FlyQuest, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those teams. So I could see them potentially getting like a top 4, but I just think they will never be a top team in the league. Like they'll never be a team that can contend for first or that can make like an impact in semifinals. I think that they're just trying to squeak into playoffs and then lose first round.
Yeah, I mean, meta's still good for them. I really want to see what happens when meta turns more. So, and yeah, I'm not really excited for them. I'm not really disappointed for them. I just think people were a little bit buying too much into the FlyQuest stocks, and they're going to cool down a lot.
What do they need to do? Are they just meta dependent team here, or is it someone is underperforming? Is it we need more out of Turtle Ignar? Like what do you need here? What do you think these people see out of FlyQuest? Why are they buying so high?
I think that they need to not play as much towards Viper. I think that like if Viper gets his Riven, that's a very unique situation. But I'd much rather see him playing like the Aatrox and things like that than when he played Mordekaiser, when he played Camille. Like I don't think they're very good around playing. They're not good about playing around topside. So I feel like Power of Evil needs to be the carry of the team. They need to mainly play through mid and have bot lane and I want the AD carry in the top lane to be serviceable. You have Viper on like Aatrox and shit like that. You have a Wild Turtle on like Senna and other things that are, you know, stable ADs, and then you put Ignar on playmakers, Santorin on playmakers, and they try to facilitate Power of Evil getting ahead and carrying people.
I think the big thing for them is they just beat teams they were better than, and they lost to team they were worse at. They did beat Dignitas, but I think that's Dignitas playing Echo and Set when they couldn't play Echo and Set.
Yeah.
So they had a good record. They had an easy schedule at the start. They lost to TL, and they're like, oh yeah, of course they lost to TL, but they beat Dignitas. They're fucking 3-1. Let's go. And then they played Cloud9 and EG, and yeah, it's kind of showing where they're at.
You think that EG will just be a better team than them at the end of the split?
Oh man, do I like Kumo better?
Kumo than Viper.
Fine. Honestly, Kumo looked fine this week, even though I think he's probably the worst top in the league. I mean, somehow he ended up 50 CS on Ruin with a set into Soraka, where you see Soraka played in EU, and every Soraka in EU, they're just chilling. Soraka in EU, they just sit in the lane. They're like down 10, 20 CS. They got their ult the entire time for the team. Somehow Kumo's just blowing Ruin's ult on cooldown.
I just think FlyQuest knew where they were way better than other teams, and now the other teams are trying to figure it out. Like, look at what EG played. They played Aatrox, Jarvan, Malzahar, Xayah, Rakan. Like, they're starting to figure out we're in North America. Like, let's play North American comps. And FlyQuest was doing that before the other teams. So we'll see where their actual level is now that everyone's like realizing, okay, we're all dog shit. Let's play dog shit comps.
Yeah, the reason why I was challenging with those questions and whatnot is because I feel like we're starting to hit the point where there are going to be a couple teams that we say that about. Like, oh, they're starting to get figured out. Very much like the next team that I want to bring up in Dignitas, where it's like, hey, look, Dignitas, 3-0. Now, in the last 3 matches, 0-3. And honeymoon phase may be over. Are they figured out? So when we get to these teams here in the middle and like the lower ones, are they figured out or maybe they got lucky? Let's try to push and see like what do people see? Why are people buying them? Because it's usually clear why people are selling on them. Or I guess in Team Liquid's case, it's pretty clear why people are giving them the credit. So let's try to devil's advocate just a little bit here. So let's talk Dig. Had a hot start. Now dropped 3 in a row against, who did they drop? Cloud9, FlyQuest, and TSM. 3-3. Is this where they belong? Is this where they're supposed to be after that hot start? Because everyone, like, we were, even I, there's a lot of reasons why I look dumb. And I looked dumb after the first couple weeks. But I bought into it after week 1 or week 2 when they were 3-1, being like, hey, look, maybe this is a top 4 team.
I think for me, like they just had like a pretty hard schedule. I feel like the only game out of those those 3 games they should win is the FlyQuest game where they drafted Echo and Set, which was just like that was their worst draft for their team so far. I personally think that they're better than the other middle of the pack the other 3-3 teams. So yeah, I just feel like they just have to be more like comfortable with their drafts, and I think that because they have an easier strength of schedule coming up, they should be fine. Like they've already played TL, TSM, and C9, so like the next game should be a lot of wins for Dignitas. I still think they'll be like a third, fourth team in terms of the standings after like the next couple weeks.
I like why you can be a little bit hotter on them is I think if they figure out their draft to be way more coherent and make sense overall when they're picking all these things together, not like Kennen, Elise, Vel'Koz, Aphelios together. I think that's going to help them a lot. And the other thing is they haven't really activated Huni yet. They just put Huni on an island. Like there was one game where they played Renekton Elise, but that game wasn't about Renekton Elise. That game was about Froggen getting ginormous on Victor. So I think there is like a side to Dignitas that they aren't playing towards, and that could still push them over the top compared to the other mid-tier teams. So yeah, better draft and more playing towards Huni might make them rise in standings more.
I think the only reason that they could potentially start like losing games is if Grig continues to play really, really poorly. If Grig is just like inting every game and they're just losing games solely off jungle, kind of how Wiggly was playing like earlier in the split. Even though there was a lot of problems on CLG, Wiggly was playing like awful. And he's still playing pretty bad. Like if Grig doesn't up his level and he's just having horrible games, maybe they just lose to some teams that they shouldn't lose to. But overall, I think that they should be climbing in the standings.
All right. Well, Dig, do you think? Let's see. What are the heights of Dig? Can they crack? Like, is that top 3 just solidified with Cloud9, TSM, and TL? Like, can Dig sneak in front of TL because of the head start that they got? No, it's only one game, but, you know, they're a team that, as you said, have, like, the most star power out of everybody else.
I mean, as you said, they're only one game above TL, and TL has way more star power. And once TL figures stuff out and Dig figures stuff out, TL's still ahead of them. So,
yeah. I would take TL over Dig. I think the Dig, if I had to guess, like, who's the most likely team to come in fourth, If my interpretation what I said before, where it's TSM 2, C9 1, TL 3, I would say the Dig is probably the most likely team to come in fourth in my mind right now.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Dig, we'll see. 3-3, one of those squads that we got to figure out as the season moves on. The other one, obviously, is 100 Thieves. They are somehow 3-3. 1-1 week 1, 1-1 week 2, 1-1 week 3. No, I don't think they've had surprise wins other than beating CLG,
TL.
Early on. They had the win against TL, but then they lost to Immortals and Evil Geniuses. So it's like, what is this team?
I think that they're just like I think that it's like what I said before. NA is pretty bad right now, so there's gonna be like a lot of like randomness in terms of like who beats who at the bottom of the table. It's like people are just gonna lose because of random mistakes, really, instead of being like, oh, we're just a better team than the other team. It's like, no, we just fucked up this, and whoever fucks up more will lose. I think this team is pretty bad. I don't think that they'll make playoffs anymore. Like I'd be higher on EG than 100 Thieves right now. I think that like if you look at like which teams are going to make playoffs, I would say my perspective right now would be like, so I said the top 4 that I said right before, and then I would say FlyQuest and EG probably will be like 5th and 6th, depending on whoever like ends up showing up more towards the later weeks. I don't think this team will make playoffs with how they are.
I think we need to see how good Yoma can get. I think that's their biggest thing, because mid lane sucking means your team doesn't exist, and Yoma has been like a middling player at best.
Middling player at best. I have him as the worst player in the league with Ica for mid lane.
Okay, maybe I was too nice. I actually agree with one of the worst. So when I talked to 100 Thieves staff, and I didn't get to talk to Ryoma directly, they were telling me like people are making calls. It's because he's just so caught out of place, like wrong side of the lane, pushing up when he can. I'm like, does this guy not know? Are people not communicating to him? But it seems like the calls are there and he's not responding to it. So I don't know, but mid lane, like any mistake on mid lane is like 10 times magnified. Because if you die mid lane, the enemy mid lane roaming means so much. The enemy mid lane like going into your jungle means so much. So yeah, my biggest question for 100 Thieves is like, how fast is Ryoma going to be a good player? Does that ever happen? And if that never happens, then they don't have playoffs, and they might be even worse than teams like Golden Guardians and Immortals. Because all the good things about like Meteos and Someday, like them doing good things later on, Meteos good objective control, Someday being able to solo carry some of the games and some of the team fights. Actually, their objective control has been dog shit. The Barons versus Team Liquid was so fucking bad. But yeah, like the good things that 100 Thieves can do does not work if Ryoma cannot get the team through the early game.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Ryoma is a huge problem. The reason why I'm worried more about Ryoma than Meteos is I feel like Meteos gets fucked a lot, like as a result of their drafts and then also how they play level 1. Like almost every game he's getting invaded. He's been playing Gragas more than any other jungler, and he's just getting invaded and losing like a buff, and he's behind every single game. Mm-hmm. So I think that like if they're able to clean up their level 1s and he's able to get some type of advantage, like he looks fine. Ryoma just looks like he's just outclassed in a lot of lanes. Like even when he played against TL and Jensen this week, it's like there was a kill or like a time where he's almost killed. He lives with like 10 health when Jensen's flashing under turret. Yeah. Where
but
I'm just
that one though, right? Is he's Oriana? Yeah, but Surenfire invaded Meteos' red or Meteos' blue, so he has to be on the left side of the map. And he's still hugging the left side of the map. So like stuff like this is what makes me really worried, because like you need to fucking know like where the jungler is, and he just can't get a grasp on that.
Yeah, I'd say that there's that problem, and then there's also just like the fact that I mean he made the same mistake in the Rise game that he played, where he just was hugging the wrong side of the lane. So there's definitely that. But then in terms of just like individual play, he misses like a lot of like Orioles and shit in games, and it just feels to me that he's just not somebody that you can depend on. He's hit or miss. He's hit or miss, and he's generally bad in lane. So I don't really see how 100 Thieves ends up making playoffs unless he gets like a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I know you touched on it, but not to skew things, but he has the lowest gold at 15 and sits in the middle right now. I think he's 6 with his damage share.
And I feel like this is something that's more like he's making mistakes. Like this is a time where the stats are more indicative of what's happening in the games, because he is making the mistakes that are getting him behind. It's not like
hey, go catch up by catching this wave over in the side. This is like, hey, you lost lane.
It's not like he's like doing fine in lane and then his team allocates resources to someday and then he's just ends up being behind in like gold because of other things. Like he is just bad in the early game himself.
Also, one of 2 players that does not have a solo kill in the mid lane. Also joining Power of Evil, interestingly enough, because Power of Evil doesn't play interaction in the mid lane early game. So yeah, Ryoma, big issue there. And I agree. Like it kind of feels weird that this team is now being gated again by the issue that they've been plagued by for a long time. Before it was Ryu can cover up and be serviceable and hold this down. But what do we think about the growth of Stunt working back with Cody Sundown on the bottom side of the map?
He's not playing as nervously, and he's taking more risks, and he's being more proactive. He was so nervous to play and like actually do stuff when he was on Rakan earlier, and he's getting his comfort pick in Thresh. So I'm really glad to see Stunt do well. I know Stunt does nothing but play video games, so yeah, watching players like that not do well is actually really sad.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, he's the one that hit the fucking blind hook when Lee Sin just pathed straight to blue against TL. I mean, it's not like the hardest thing in the world to do. But, I mean, it just feels like he's confident, a little bit more confident than he was before. And even when he was playing, like, in the first game of the split where they played against, I think, Golden Guardians, like, I thought he's just, like, more comfortable walking up and engaging. So, obviously, he's going to die sometimes and it's going to look bad, but I'd rather see that than the opposite, where people are just, like, hiding behind their team and just trying to go with the flow.
Even in like the top lane play, like he's doing the flash E and he's like being proactive, and we just did not see that in the earlier weeks. And historically, like that's where Stun has failed the most, like being proactive and not playing nervously on stage.
Are we at a point here where we need to be on Saligo watch to see if he's going to get his opportunity to move back on up yet? Because
I mean, Saligo's been playing pretty well in Academy. I watched one of his games on stream. Like that's my problem is like Ryoma is just not an import. Like that's the biggest problem with Ryoma and Ica. It's like, so these are the worst 2 players in the league and they're imports. Like if you're going to have an import, bro, import somebody on your team that's going to actually make a difference. Like it makes no sense to waste an import slot for somebody that's worse than local talent.
I think the hilarious thing is I was going to say, I actually have not watched Saligo, so it's hard to say if Saligo should play over Ryoma, but Dom actually goes out of his way to watch Saligo.
I didn't go out of my way to watch Saligo. It just happens to be that the match, like they did the show match after some of the LCS games, so I just got to watch him there.
Yeah, just pure coincidence.
Yep,
All right.
pretty much.
Well, sure up that mid lane and maybe 100 Thieves make it. The way that we see it, they are the team on the way out, which brings us to our lower tier teams, but a team that we think are going to make playoffs here at the 5-6 spot. Evil Geniuses. So Evil Geniuses haven't had the start that they wanted, especially early. They get their first win through Jizuke and then go 1-1 again. This week, the win against FlyQuest, very huge there. Again, one of those playoff tiebreaker matches. How do we feel like they've done with what is the big question of 100 Thieves right now, or of Evil Geniuses, and why you think they're struggling the most?
They had the same problem that TSM had, kind of, where they're playing comps that they can, and the good AD carry on their team. I don't think Bang is that good. I actually think Kabi is better than Bang. But Bang is like, okay, I want to win some games. Give me the ball. I'm going to play Zyra Khan. Just, if you have a great AD carry, like we've seen it for everyone. Like Doublelift, whenever we can call him 9th, we can call him 10th, but whenever he plays Zyra Khan and they just play towards him, they win. Like, if you have a good AD carry, it's one of the easiest way to win. Play Zyra Khan, play towards bot side, play towards team fight. And I think that's what Evil Genius has figured out. Like, we have Bang, let's do more of that than trying to get this like Senna Kench or Sona Kench shit to work.
Mm-hmm. And I think the loss into CLG, I didn't put too much weight on the loss. Like they had a lead, but I think that's also them just being like I think it's bad. It's hard for a bad team to beat Soraka. Like unless you're really fucking good, playing against Soraka top is super, super difficult. And I felt like they kind of just lost team fights due to Soraka difference later on. Like I didn't feel like they were a worse coordinated team than CLG per se. And I just think that they just were bad into the pick, and that pick is pretty OP overall. So I didn't put too much weight on that game. And I think for FlyQuest, they look pretty good. I like that they're proactive, ganking the ball in with Jarvan and Malzahar TP. Like they really were able to impact the game. So I guess it's kind of weird, but the two teams that are 2 and 4, I think both of them will end up making playoffs.
What is other than Bang, how do we feel about Jizuke? Is he someone that you can
he looks good
rely on, like to be a carry here?
Yeah, I think he's just like a really good laning player. I think he's good in lane, and like sometimes he'll have like random ints and things like that. But overall, I think he's solid. I think he's a solid mid laner. Like that's like he's import level to me. Like, he seems like when he plays on EG, he's somebody who's being one of like the more proactive people. I think he's the most proactive person on the team right now.
Yeah, I mean, EG has a lot of trustworthy pieces. Spenskaren, Jizuke, Bang to a certain regard, Zazel to a certain regard. The only person I would really put in question is Kumo.
Yeah, and that was the person I wanted to poke a little bit you about, Loco, because you've been kind of vocal. Anytime we kind of hover around EG, you're like, Kumo, I don't know. He hasn't really been there yet. He hasn't done it yet.
I just don't like the credit that he gets from being a C9 rookie. This guy's a C9 rookie, so he gets passes on everything. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, he had C9 players and he had some terrible, like he had some god-awful stats last year. So I thought Kumo would be the worst top laner coming in. I still think he's one of the worst top laners. So yeah, it's just what it is.
Yeah, I thought that he played fine versus Ruin. I mean, it is Ruin, but I think the Set Soraka matchup, he was further ahead than he should be. But Ruin's so awful that it's like hard to even tell. Another just waste of an import slot. And I thought that his Aatrox was fine as well. I thought his Aatrox into Camille, like he played weak side well. He didn't have anyone come to his lane, and he was only down like 10 CS with the Lee Sin being up there the entire time. He didn't make himself diveable. He kept the wave off his turret. I think he's like okay. I think he's probably the worst top laner in the league. I don't think he's horrible though. Like when you compare, like I think that he's better at top lane compared to the rest of the field than Ryoma and Ica are compared to the rest of the mids. I'd say like the difference between like the top and the 10th for the first and the 10th top laners would be smaller than the difference between the first and 10th mid laners.
What's the fix for this team? Like, we think they're going to make playoffs, and obviously I thought they were going to be much better, but what's the fix for them after they've lost 4 games so far, other than playing the ball comp?
That is the fix. Like, that's exactly what they needed to do. They did Aphelios Kench, Senna Kench, Sona Kench, and then they lost a game on Aphelios Thresh, and then after that they're like, we're a Zyra Khan team, we're a team fighting team. Pick the Ori, pick the Malzahar. I don't mind the LeBlanc picks that much. I actually think
his LeBlanc is really good too.
He's really good on LeBlanc, but I would love like LeBlanc Lee, LeBlanc Rek'Sai. Unless you're getting comps like that, just play these ball comps and just pick up the free wins. Like I'm telling you, teams in North America, like we know exactly how good you are. You should know exactly how good you are. Like why the fuck do you not understand? Like Oh my god, everyone just watches LCK and LEC after like getting kicked out of Worlds. The teams that don't go to Worlds watch Worlds and they're like, we should be doing that. Just play 1-3-1 PogChamp, like play priority comps, like.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what I want to see out of EG is just weak side top lane picks. Like never play through Kumo as a carry. Give him the Aatrox, give him Soraka, give him Set. Don't play towards him at all. Camp your bot lane, camp your mid lane, get Jizuke and Bang ahead, and let Jizuke and Bang carry the game.
All right. Well, last thing I wanted to touch on, because I didn't hear you guys say his name all that much. How do we feel about Svenskeren here? He's had a fall off a little bit from his MVP form. How far is that fall off, and why is that?
Jungle is ruined. That's why. Jungle is fucking ruined on that patch that they've been playing on.
Yeah.
I think the draft was really bad for him. I think the Kindred pick into Gragas was really bad in the TSM game. He had the Rek'Sai game that was really awful into Golden Guardians as well. But I thought that his Jarvan looked fine. And I think his Elise looked fine to a degree. Like, he was at least able to make something happen early, right? Like, in both the last games this week, he gets a kill pre-6, which is like what the jungler, which is the mark of being a good jungler right now. It's like what your main thing is. That's your main power spike is like level 3. That's your biggest power spike in the game. And it just gets worse after that. So him being able to get kills, I mean, even though Crown was like trolling super hard with the death, him being able to show up and get kills early, I think is what the team needs. So I don't think that he's playing super poorly or anything.
Agreed on the patch, and also like teammates being different is like a really big thing.
Yeah.
It's one thing jungling for C9 and it's one thing jungling for EG.
Yeah. It's also a different thing jungling in 10.2 compared to jungling in like season 9, season 7, season 8, all those other seasons. Like before, like you could be more efficient. Like it was okay to make the trade for like sacrifice over to farm over do pressure. But now if you ever sacrifice pressuring the map to farm, you're like always wrong.
You're inting your team.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, there's only one player I think that made it on a losing team in the all NALCS like top players, and that was back in the jungle. It was Lyra on Envy back in the spring. He was voted as the all NALCS jungler, but it was back in 2000.
That was Grapes, you played Grapes. It was different.
And they were 9th place. So I think they were in 9th place that year.
He played Grapes in Italy. That was a completely different meta.
Other than that, it's always been, let's pick the players from TL and Cloud9. So we'll see if Svenskeren will be able to get it back on track. The other team that they're tied with, we already talked about Team Liquid. The other team that they're tied with right now is Golden Guardians. So Golden Guardians sitting at 2-4. I tried to get us to touch on it a little bit in the win. How do we feel about where they're at?
I think we talked about them a lot in the TSM. What was the game where we talked about them a lot? TL.
TL.
So yeah, I'll try to keep it short as possible regarding Golden Guardians. Like, not that hot on Golden Glue, hot on Closer. I actually like that Haunter's playing stuff like Soraka, because I remember one problem is Haunter does not like playing certain types of champion. Like, he's really good on his champions, which is like Aatrox. What else was he good on? I'm trying to think.
Renekton back in the day, Gnar.
Renekton, Gnar. Like, Haunter has like Haunter, Bruiser champions. He hated Maokai. He
was really good at it.
Yeah, but he fucking hated playing Maokai. But I like that he's doing more of, I'll play the Soraka. Like, I'll be more of the background role. And everyone else, like, we already gave a lot on, so that's my at least 2 cents on Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're just a team that is, like, their bot lane, obviously people are going to be like, oh, their bot lane's not an issue. Look, they beat Doublelift and Core JJ. Well, for the other 5 games, they were a massive issue. So for me, I just think that if the bot lane gets stable, maybe they can, like, end up, like, 7th or 8th place instead of 9th or 10th. But, like, I think that in general, Closer is exceeding expectations. He's playing better than he was supposed to, and then everyone else is kind of doing exactly how we thought they would. Haunter's good. Golden Glue's like middle of the pack towards the lower end of the middle of the pack, and then the bot lane is just a fucking train wreck.
Yep, I think that sums it up. That was everything that I had. Anything else we want to add before we move on to the team that we need to talk about the most?
I want to talk about CLG.
All right, let's get into it.
Fuck the TL slide. We talked about TL the whole time.
We talked about TL. They're turning on. Brox is there. Coaching, probably not an issue. All right, here we go. let's get into it. CLG, everyone's favorite pick to make playoffs coming on in.
All right, so first things first, Loco, how do you feel about Crown showing himself as being the best mid laner in North America? What do you think?
I think the big thing about CLG is their team identity is one of the worst I've seen for an LCS team. So preseason, when you take like players and you rank players on like, oh, on average, this is where this team should be. Like, you don't look at how they're going to combine, just individual player. The drop off that CLG is showing is so fucking immense. Like, they have pieces that they should never be 10th with, and they're somehow managing to be 10th. Like, they're less than the sum of their parts. I think in 2019, CLG had like a really strong identity, and that's why they were able to make playoffs and almost make it to Worlds. We let Power of Evil be. We let him play his champions. We're going to play towards bot side. Ruin is going to build his own leads. We don't really have to gank for him. Like, they had one of the lowest jungle proximity for top lane compared to any other team. And their solo lanes just did their jobs. And they were allowed to play by bot side. They were allowed to stack dragons and be relevant in the mid game. And in 2020, I cannot define an identity for CLG. Are they like a bot side team? Are they like a top side team? What are they good at? We can talk all day about what they're bad at.
They're an ARAM team.
But they don't have an identity, and they have so little things clicking together. And I rarely blame coaching staff because I don't know what goes on inside teams. I don't know like who's saying what. But I think CLG has like a serious leadership problem. When you have these kind of pieces, and nobody on CLG stands out to me as like a problem child. Like nobody
really?
I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to create problems within the team. Like
I feel like Ruin's like that. Just
towards Song.
I don't think towards Song. I think towards like the rest of his teammates, he probably. I think there's a world where he just thinks Wiggly sucks at this point.
I think Ruin at the end of the year was tweeting about like, I'm really glad I'm getting like a second shot on CLG. So maybe he randomly developed an ego, but I don't think CLG is a team with like, we have internal like player between player problem team. I think they just have terrible leadership in terms of where they're taking the draft. And
so do you think that Ruin is actually just that bad?
I think
he's just this awful of a player.
No, I think everyone on CLG is showing up way worse than they are. Like what they're being asked to do individually as players, the comps they're being put in, and the decisions they're making as a team makes everyone look bad. I don't think Ruin's the worst top laner in LCS. I definitely don't.
I think he's the second worst, but maybe he's the worst because like it's like the same type of thing where I thought he was like the second worst. The only person I thought was worse than him was Kumo, and then Kumo just dicked him pretty hard. Like even though he was playing Soraka, right? Like when you put Set into Soraka, the way the matchup goes in EU, I got to see the same exact matchup played in Europe with a Rogue versus Mad Lions, where they played Finn had Set, and then Rome had Soraka, and the matchup was like the Soraka's down 20 CS, but he always has ult pressure for the team, so he's providing that. And then you look at Ruin played, and he's just down 50 CS. He's having to blow ult for himself the entire time. Like I think there's an argument to be made for him being the worst top laner in the league. When he was playing Aatrox yesterday, he actually looked fine, I thought, but they still lose that game based off just bad, like horrible macro. And for me, I think it's really weird because Wiggly is definitely doing really, really poorly. So maybe Wiggly is the worst player on the team, but overall, the people that are doing the worst are like the imports, right? Mm-hmm. Ruin and Crown, you're not getting import value. Like if you have Crown on your team, you want him to be better significantly than the other mid laners in the league, and it just feels weird watching him play. Like when he was playing against EG, it looked strange. Like he doesn't know how to use GLP on Syndra. He's not using GLP to set up any of his balls. He sees an Elise topside sweep a ward, and then he hugs that side of the lane and just gets killed by Elise. Doesn't even flash because there's no way he's going to live anyway. It's like when I see plays like that, I'm like, dude, are you focused on the game? He let Ica live for free because he just felt bad for Ica or something, like in an LCS game where it's like, dude, drop the pity, drop the ego, just take the fucking free kill and like win the game. I don't know. When I see CLG play, like it just seems like the best performing members of the team. Like people will be like, oh, Smoothie gets caught all the time. Well, his team is doing like nothing and doing retarded stuff. So a lot of times the support is going to die for that. Sure, Smoothie's making some bad decisions, but he's also the only person that's like looking for fights. Like he knows when they're stronger, and he's the one that's like Leona ulting first. You don't see like Ruin trying to find his own flanks. You don't see Crown trying to initiate fights with Rumble. They're always just waiting for the team to go in and then trying to like clean up, which I think is just a bad mindset overall.
I think there has to be like really good role definition on a team where you're telling each player, hey, this is your role on the team. This is what we're expecting out of you. So when things go wrong, you can troubleshoot. Like, oh, this went wrong. You were responsible for this. Like, shot calling in League of Legends is way more fluid than what it was before. And even the champion picks are way more fluid than what it was before. You don't just play tanks top, carry mid, carry bot side. But CLG has a serious fucking problem with this. I think they should designate Smoothie as shot caller. They should designate Smoothie as engager and really try to keep things simple and really give people specific roles that they're trying to execute and not, they just get way too smart. They just get way too cute. Like the Olaf Silas draft, KO Rek'Sai draft, like Camille Zoe, like Senna Nautilus draft. Like I just look at what they've been drafting and I'm like, you're not supposed to play this. You can't be playing this. You're not good enough to do this. And they just do it over and over again. And then we look at the end game. We look at the kind of macro that they do. They have Ocean Soul. They have Baron. And they cannot fucking they cannot fucking end the game. Like they cannot fucking put them in the right position.
Yeah, and they just have a stronger team comp at that point. Like you're against triple AP topside. Your Aatrox is 4 items. He's literally unkillable, and he can just frontline. You have massive AoE. You have Rumble ult, and you saw them do it, right? They Rumble ulted and Leona ulted, and at that point in the game, these ults are on like 45 to like 60-second cooldown. Like so, they get the ults right, and they can just do it again. It's like okay, we made a play. We got mid priority. Went to Baron. They tried to contest. We blew flashes. Just do the same play again, and then they just lose. Like the enemy team can't side lane. The Azir is not gonna fucking like end the game through split push or some shit like that. Mm-hmm. The Ornn can't side lane at all. You can literally just play the game out normally. Like you can just literally just play the game out, fight whenever you have your ultimates up, and you just win. And they still can't execute that game. So it's like if that's not a position that you can win from, like when can you win? Give any other team in the world that Ocean Soul advantage with like better team comp and priority over like side lane. How do you fucking lose? It just doesn't seem possible.
Are we ready to give up on these guys turning it around and making a run to playoffs?
I mean, their problems are so fucking pronounced and in a lot of ways so easy to fix and should be like Weldon is known as like a problem solver for teams. So I'm actually shocked that this is happening to a Weldon team. It's like you can talk shit about Weldon, like you can talk about like the fucking yoga, you can talk about the fucking meditation. Weldon has made sure that he gets the best out of his players. Like his strategy is not his thing, but getting everyone on the same page, making sure everyone's performing to their best has been Weldon's strength. And I just don't know what's going on with CLG. Like, sure, my prediction is wrong. Like, sure, they're definitely not top 3, but they shouldn't be right here. They definitely should not have these kind of problems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's only 3 weeks, right? Like they can definitely still turn it around and make playoffs. Like I wouldn't be surprised, but like even if they do make playoffs, I don't even think that it's like it says anything. Like NA is just so fucking bad right now. We have 2 teams that are good and everyone else is dog shit. So it's pretty like random who's gonna sneak into that last playoff spot. Like it's not like I'm like, oh, they could never be better than FlyQuest. Shit. If Crown starts playing better and he plays like he normally does, sure, they I think the bot lane's playing fine. Like they're solo killing in lane and stuff. They're doing okay. I think Stixxay can still carry games. If they get a 6th seed, I don't even care at that point. It's just like the region itself is just doomed with how people are playing. It seems like the constant imports haven't really helped at all here. Yeah. We have Crown, we have Ruin. It just doesn't seem like they're doing anything to progress the teams. Like most of the teams that I'm watching, the imports are the worst members of it. So it's really weird.
Look, everyone's complaining about problems, and then C9's actually solving their problems. That the same problems that everyone has always had, and they're talking about we can't develop players. I'm like, how the fuck does C9 develop a new player every single fucking year? Like, oh, like the imports aren't working out. Like Zben's working out for C9. Like Niski's working out for C9. Like all these problems that these NA teams like talk about so publicly, and why we can't win, like why we can't be relevant. Like, is C9 not a North American team? Like, does C9 live in like they literally just live in a world of their own?
Cloud9 Light over there with Evil Geniuses selling all those players. CLG, I wanted to go back to a point that you made, Loco, because you had strong words, not necessarily just for the players, but a lot of the leadership there, and you touched on Weldon. Is this the first time, and I'm not sure, which is why I'm asking, is this the first time Weldon's ran into major adversity with a team in terms of record? Because he had success over at G2, he had success over at TSM. Has he had issues with a team like this?
He coached C9 with Darshan. Not C9, CLG with Darshan, excuse me. and he also had Ember, like that couldn't make it to LCS promo. So Weldon isn't a perfect record.
Yeah.
But this is like in Weldon's wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's things that coaches are good at, and I feel like this is not a problem Weldon should be having.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it might just be more severe than we thought, and I think it just takes time. It's like CLG last year. Like they even with Weldon, they were pretty bad at the beginning, and then once like he really got control of the team, they're able to make an adjustment, and then they became a top team. So I'd say that it just takes more time. Like you're not going to take a team of bad players that have horrible coordination at the beginning, and just make them good overnight. Like it's going to be like a split or two splits. And if at the end of the year, at the end of summer, CLG is still like complete dog shit like this, then I could say that there's some blame to be put on Weldon.
I like that, Dom, because you said the same thing about TSM, right? Two players returning from this team. You got to give them at least a little bit of time to at least mesh and grow together. It's just surprising to see CLG, who, as we touched on earlier, was on the cusp of being that third team to go to Worlds for NA last year, now just at the bottom and looking identityless.
You know, I was thinking about the support thing a lot because I remember I flip-flopped a lot about Bio and Smoothie. Mm-hmm. TSM just wrecked CLG in that trade. Like, from what it looks like...
You think Biofrost is that much better than Smoothie?
From how it looks right now, because I always thought Smoothie thing was Smoothie's more vocal, Smoothie can get the team on the same page. Like, Biofrost is better in lane, Biofrost is better on range support. When it comes to melee engagers, maybe Smoothie might be better. Like, I thought there are certain things that Smoothie does better, and I thought there's certain things that Bio does better. But right now, how it looks is like, yeah, I mean, Smoothie should be like the defining voice of CLG, and Smoothie still doesn't look like a bright spot. Stixay finally looked good playing with Smoothie, but yeah, it just looks like TSM fucked CLG in the trade.
I don't think the Smoothie is as bad as everyone's saying he is. Just from watching the games, it's like Biofrost had a bunch of bad engages in the game that they played versus TL. So I've seen like them both have good and bad engages. I think that Smoothie's engages have been pretty decent overall. I just think that the team is functioning on such like a bad individual level that it's really hard to shock all, because it's like, unless he's micromanaging the players and he's like, okay, Ruin, you're in the side lane, like just don't die, like we're trying to push on mid lane, like unless he's that type of player, which like I guess High was for a while.
Yeah,
I feel like it's so hard to like shot call. I feel like shot calling should be like the one that's making like the overall final decision for like how the team wants to play out a situation. But individually, it seems like people are just playing too bad for him to be able to like really put a stamp on the games.
All right. Any final thoughts on CLG?
Please be better. Like, oh my god, it's just depressing watching players like Crown, watching players like Smoothie, and even Stixay to a certain regard, and like Wiggly, who was such a promising rookie for NA, just like pissed the year away.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like Wiggly just needs to fucking step it up, and Ruin needs to figure out what the fuck what he's doing on stage, because I mean, I've heard in scrims he's actually really good, and then in solo queue he got rank 1, so like he's supposed to be good. Like everything indicates towards him being good. So why is he like performing like the worst top laner in the league?
Yeah,
or second worst?
Yep. Well, we'll see. And they have a middle of the road schedule. They have to play Cloud9, Golden Guardians, and the souped up Team Liquid with Broxah there. So we might be staring down a 1-8 CLG here at the end of the first half of the season. I wanted to pose a question to you guys since we went through all these teams, especially here on the bottom half. Loco's general advice for North America is make it easier. Make it easier. Play the thing that is easier to execute in terms of draft and composition. I wanted to focus a little more on players, and we talked about some of the players that have been underperforming. Who do you think is the first player that gets substituted? And I'll pose 3 guys for you. If you have someone else, more than happy to offer that one in. But Ika in the mid lane, behind him is Insanity, who played for Team Liquid Academy for, I think, 2 years and has looked pretty solid so far here. I think Immortals are undefeated, or 5-1 in Academy. You've got Ruin, and behind Ruin on CLG Academy, I don't even know who it is. Ruin is one of our worst players in the league. And then behind Ryoma is good old Soligo, do you see a substitution coming on in right now with any of those bottom players yet, or do you feel like, hey, look, these guys are gonna?
It doesn't make sense unless there's another player that they're putting it, because all those 3 players are import versus non-import, I think. So if you're gonna put the non-import in, then you need to replace one of your native players with an import. Like that's like the main reason why you do it. I mean, I don't think any of those players are like significantly better or worse than the person that's starting over them. I just feel like there's just no reason to replace, since they like, because it's not going to be an upgrade, and then the rest of like your team isn't going to get better as a result. Like normally you'd want to sub out like Ica for Insanity if that means that you're suddenly putting in like
another import somewhere.
Yeah, you're putting in like a star 80 carry over Altec, or you're putting in a insane support over Hakuho. If you're not doing that, I don't think there's a point.
I don't think, the replacements are way too early also. So as much as we shit on the players, just let it be for a while.
I mean, I don't know, because like in Europe, you saw Gilius get subbed already for Lurox. Like after 2 weeks, he got instantly kicked. I feel like they're more willing to just pull the trigger on stuff like that.
I don't watch Europe. I will definitely caveat it by saying that first, but Europe has better rookies than NA in general, and Europe is much more competitive as a region, no?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's more just like if people are underperforming, they're more willing to just pull the trigger. Like I don't think Keith would have made it to week 3 in Europe playing like that style. Even with the player base that we have, I think that people would be looking for a reason to at least try Huhi in that situation.
Yeah.
Just a different mindset. I feel like Europe is more cutthroat. Like they're just more like try hard, where NA is like, come on, Keith, you can do it. There, look, you hooked Doublelift. I told you.
Sorry. The player behind Ruin is Deus, who used to be RJ.
Oh yeah, that's never happening.
RJ D&D God.
That's never happening.
He spent some time with a big brain LS over there on BBQ Olivers.
Yeah, I mean, he just started playing the role. There's no way he's better than Ruin right now. Like he's one of the worst mid laners in Academy when I saw him play.
Imports are an investment, and they're investing into Ruin, and they've already invested there's a sunken cost to replacing Ruin.
The sunk cost fallacy here.
Yeah, and definitely. When you're replacing an import, you're saying like, we fucked up. Like, we fucking shit the bed big time.
Okay. All right. Well, those are all of the teams that we've had here in the LCS in week 3, the first trimester of the season. So 2 more trimesters left. So we're counting it as like the first third, the second third. I guess we should always talk about the halfway point, because then every team has played each other.
Actually, there's someone. Oh my god, I forget about this all the time. But if anyone gets a LCS spot out of anywhere, I think it's actually Solo replacing Kumo or Solo replacing Ruin. I know I just talked about Ruin like sunk costs, but Solo I actually think has way more promise than Ruin. And also for the Kumo situation, if EG is really struggling with their top, Solo can actually fix your problems like right away. And the thing that Dom said before about toxic players and
bad teams,
100% applies. Like CLG and EG, you're not good enough to win LCS. Like, get the best you can get and deal with the toxicity.
Yep. Man up.
All right. Maybe we'll see some Colin Ernest back in the league with Solo having an opportunity. All right. Anything else that you guys wanted to touch on before we close things out?
No, that's about it.
Yeah, I think we hit on a lot of the teams. And again, we're starting to see who they are and how they've presented themselves in the first third. We'll take another look at how they do, especially with this week. You got TSM going through a interesting schedule, and then CLG possibly staring down like 2 more losses. And will anyone finally be able to cut down Sven's insane KDA? I think it's 72 right now. I think he has a 72 KDA, approaching that 100 mark if he can continue his dominance over NA. But either way, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Week 3 in the books. We'll be back next Tuesday for week 4 action. Make sure to tune in. We'll catch you guys later.